Chapter 1273. The Winged Man Valley was considered a vassal of Nether Prison. Geographically, it was not far from Nether Prison. Nether Prison had once invaded it, but the great sage of the Winged Man Valley stopped it. In the end, the higher-ups of the two countries sat down, reconciled, and signed some treaties. Over the years, the Winged Man Valley had developed rapidly, thanks to Nether Prison's help. The cultivation base of the Winged Man Valley's winged men was determined by the number of wings on their backs. The more wings they had, the stronger they were. The figure in the sky had 2 pairs of wings, 4 in total. A terrible fluctuation spread from it, and a holy light illuminated the whole world. This was the great sage's power, and it was extremely shocking. The Winged Man Valley leader's identity was not ordinary. He could actually attract the great sage's help. However, this was a violation of the rules. The Netherworld's Tournament of the Great Path had strict requirements that experts like the Great Sage were not allowed to intervene. The Winged Man Valley leader's move was a desperate move. He was pushed to the limit by Bufong. As a second revolution little saint, he was beaten by a boy who had just become a little saint. The little chef's body was so strong that it almost made him despair. When he threw a punch, he felt as if it carried a tremendous force, and it was extremely difficult for him to resist. After feeling the threat of death, the Winged Man Valley leader summoned the Great Sage's clone without hesitation. It was a life-saving means his grandfather had given him. Rumble. A pure and holy light figure floated in the void. The 4-winged light figure was like a real god, blooming with a brilliance that made everyone's heart palpitate. Bufong hovered in midair and watched expressionlessly. Suddenly, above him, the void was torn apart. A pitch-black dog paw swatted at the glowing figure. Lord Go. That gave Bufong pause. Looking at the rift in the void, he saw a black dog lying lazily with its paw raised. Bufong narrowed his eyes. He felt that the Lord Go's power had grown stronger again. Where did this dog paw come from? How dare you offend the 4-winged great sage of the Winged Man Valley? You're courting death. The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes widened, and he let out a roar. With the support of the 4-winged great sage, he was now full of confidence. Not to mention one little chef, even if there were 10 of them, he could still crush them to ashes. The exquisite dog paw swept across the sky. It immediately attracted the attention of the 4-winged great sage. The glowing figure's head moved, as if a line of sight was projected onto the dog's paw. Buzz. A dazzling light suddenly shone on the great sage. In the next moment, the 2 pairs of pure white wings on his back shook violently. He raised his fist and punched out. It collided with Lord Go's claw. Holy Light Fist. This was the Winged Man Valley's best combat skill. The dog paw didn't stop there. It continued to sweep across the sky. Black nether energy kept sweeping out, and the terrible power of heaven and earth spread, making everyone present feel suffocated. By the time the exquisite dog paw appeared, the members of the Hell Party were already sprawled on the ground. Their bodies were trembling nonstop, and their faces were filled with fear. They were no strangers to that feeling. It was the aura of the infernal realm, the aura of the infernal realm's ruler. It was the aura of Earth Prison's great sage. They couldn't believe that this little chef actually had the support of Earth Prison's great sage. How could a chef from the Heaven Chief realm have the support of Earth Prison's great sage? Boom! The light fist and the dog paw collided. A terrible explosion broke out in an instant. However, what made everyone's jaws drop was the light fist was as fragile as glass. In an instant, it broke inch by inch and collapsed in the void. Boom! The dog paw smashed down. The 4-winged great sage was slapped hard into the ground, creating a huge pit. How dare a 3-revolution great sage's birdman clone show off in front of you, Lord Go? Even if you were here in your true form, I would have to shrink my wings and stay aside when I see Lord Go. A warm and lazy voice resounded from within the rift, and it carried undisguised disdain. The Winged Man Valley leader was stunned. The dog paw came down. His trump card was mercilessly slapped to the ground. How is this possible? Boom! The ground rumbled, and gravel flew into the air. The The figure of the four-winged great saint soared into the sky again, and a cross-shaped lightsaber suddenly appeared in his hand. Buzz, it was as if the will of the great path was sweeping across the void. The light sword was thrown out by the figure. In the blink of an eye, it crossed the sky and shot toward Lord Go, who was hiding in the rift. This is the Winged Man Valley's unique technique, cross-trial. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted. Behind him, the eyes of the remaining two Winged Man Valley experts also lit up. However, they soon fell into despair again. Inside the rift, a pitch-black dog paw swatted out once again, lightly slapping the cross-light sword. The cross-light sword crumbled as easily as crushing dry weeds. The dog paw continued to sweep across the sky. Then, it slapped the four-winged great sage's projection again. The great sage was slammed so hard that he almost scattered. The second paw was over. Suddenly, a rumbling sound rang out from the void. The next moment, the third paw approached. The void was so oppressive that it kept rumbling. Rumble. The last claw suddenly fell. The four-winged figure was smashed into ashes. 3 exquisite dog paws, and a great sage's clone was smashed to smithereens. Puff! The Winged Man Valley leader opened his mouth and coughed out a mouthful of blood. The light sword between his eyebrows shattered, and his aura suddenly weakened. Then, he fell hard to the ground. His eyes widened, and he felt that this was unbelievable. How could there be such a powerful dog in the world? Blood trickled down the corner of the Winged Man Valley leader's mouth, and his eyes widened. He looked around. All the Earth Prison experts were lying on the ground, cowering in fear. Even the leader of the Earth Prison team, whose strength was not weaker than his, was the same. It was as if the experts of hell were facing a supreme existence. A dog. The Earth Prison experts were so in awe of him. The Winged Man Valley leader's pupils constricted as he suddenly realized something. Earth Prison dog, he roared hoarsely. The Earth Prison dog that was seriously injured by the experts of the 9 Nether Prison clans? How could he be here? How could he recover from his injuries so quickly? Why are they calling you Lord Go? A lazy voice rang out from the crack in the void. Unfair. You black dog. As the great sage of Earth Prison, what right do you have to interfere in the competition? I can't accept this. The Winged Man Valley leader's eyes were full of unwillingness as he roared. Bufong looked at him indifferently and twitched the corner of his mouth slightly. How dare this guy say it's unfair? First, he hid his strength, and then he summoned the great sage's clone. This kind of person is unfair to the extreme. And now he has the nerve to say it's unfair? The whole place fell silent for a few seconds. Only the Winged Man Valley leader's unwilling roar could be heard. He was roaring angrily. However, the void was torn apart. Another dog paw fell from the sky. With a rumble, the paw enlarged in front of the Winged Man Valley leader's eyes and completely engulfed him. The entire ground trembled and collapsed completely, leaving a huge paw print on the ground. Don't say that the Lord Go bullied the weak. The Lord Go is merciful to leave you alive after slapping you half to death. As for the rest, let Bufong Boy handle it. The gentle and magnetic voice rang out in the air again. Then, the rift in the void slowly closed. Inside the rift, the lazy Lord Go squinted his eyes and looked into the distance. There, a figure was holding a blade of grass and looking at the Lord Go with a smile. The Lord Go waved his paw at the figure. Then the rift was completely closed and disappeared. The figure hovered in midair. He was playing with a blade of grass in his hand. There was a playful look in his eyes. This mangy dog is helping this little chef from a distance. He looks familiar. Is he the boy who stole my acheron grass? The figure mumbled. Who cares? It's just a piece of one-leaf acheron grass. It's not worth offending this black dog for a piece of one-leaf acheron grass. Also, the great sage of the Birdman Valley dares to attack in Earth Prison. Does he think that there's no one in Earth Prison who can stop him? As the figure spoke, he slightly shook his head. Clutching the grass, his figure quickly disappeared into the void. Earth Prison, Hades Palace Underground. 18 Ghost King passes. The fiercely shaking bronze gate suddenly stopped. A massive aura diffused from behind the gate. Boom! Then, the sound of a fist hitting the bronze gate rang out, and the sound of footsteps gradually faded away. For the spicy strip, I have to get through this godforsaken place as soon as possible. The faint voice dissipated in the air. Smoke and dust billowed. Bufong landed on the edge of the dog's paw pit, looking into it with a strange face. Everyone around was in awe. Trembling, they stared at the pit. The paw just now seemed to be able to destroy heaven and earth. Was that the power of Earth Prison Dog? Was it the Earth Prison Dog who once attacked Nether Prison and fought against the 9 clans? Rumble, the gravel rolled. The Wingman Valley leader was covered in blood. His wings were broken and hung crookedly on his shoulders. He looked like a madman, coughing up blood and laughing. The dog's paw had been merciful. It didn't kill him. However, it had also beaten him half to death. Lord Go, on the other hand, left the Wingman Valley leader to Bufong. Bufong glanced at the Wingman Valley leader, his mind a little blank. Had Lord Go come to Earth Prison as well? He had always thought that the lazy dog was still sleeping soundly in Immortal Chef little store. However, Lord Go had come to Earth Prison, but he didn't come to see him. Had he gone to deal with something? Bufong pondered for a long time. Just as Bufong was pondering, the Wingman Valley leader's eyes gleamed fiercely. All of you attack. Chop off this brat's head for me. The Wingman Valley leader roared. Rumble. His wings spread. The 2 Wingman Valley little saint, who had been watching the battle for a long time, burst into action at the same time. Their figures turned into arrows and sped toward Bufong. Silver swords appeared in their hands. Their eyes were full of killing intent. A terrifying aura swept out. Everyone present sucked in a breath of cold air. Fa Wu and the others were so shocked by the appearance of 4-winged Great Saint and Lord Dog that they had yet to recover from their shock. The sudden attack from the Wingman Valley experts made their pupils constrict. Fa Wu's pupils constricted, and he looked at Bufong. Owner Bu, be careful. The experts of the Earth Prison team also took deep breaths. On the light screen, countless people were in an uproar. Despicable Wingman Valley. How could they attack? The Wingman Valley Birdman. F*CKU. How dare you say it's unfair? Little chef, fight back. Don't just stand there. When the audience saw that Bufong was still standing at the same spot, their faces were filled with anxiety. They really didn't want Bufong to die in the hands of the enemy like this. The 2 Wingman Valley little saints sped toward Bufong one after the other. Above the silver lightsaber, there was a holy energy floating. Die! Roared the Wingman Valley little saint. One of them thrust the sword at Bufong's head. The other thrust his sword at Bufong's throat. His killing intent was overwhelming. The Wingman Valley Great Sage laughed wildly in excitement. In the distance, a depressing whistling sound suddenly broke out. For streams of light approached at high speed. They were 4 Earth Prison overlords. As the swords approached, Bufong's eyes moved slightly. Then he raised his eyes and looked at the Wingman Valley little saint above him. With a thought, a dumpling appeared in his hand. As Bufong's cultivation base broke through to the little saint level, the little saint's energy poured into the dumpling made the effect of the death food tool even stronger. The dumpling's control over the little saint had been extended to 2 breaths. 2 breaths. It was enough for Bufong to torture him 1,000 times. Rumble. The colorful divine seal, dumpling, was crushed. 7-colored light suddenly surged. The pupils of the 2 Wingman Valley little saint constricted. Then, a look of terror appeared in his eyes. They found that their bodies were unable to move. Bufong glanced expressionlessly at the 2 Wingman Valley little saint. Then, 2 explosive meatballs appeared in his hand. Sizzle. The meatballs were bitten open. Steam and aroma rose from them. Under the horrified gazes of the 2 little saints, Bufong stuffed the meatballs into their mouths. The next moment, he flicked his fingers between the 2 little saints' eyebrows. The 2 little saints were sent flying backward. No, and oh! Miserable howls resounded through the void. The next moment, they exploded with a loud bang. Flames soared into the sky, and energy fluctuations spread. The corners of everyone's mouths trembled as they watched this scene. The wingman valley captain stared blankly at the sky. His two subordinates were killed by Bu Fong so easily. Bu Fong turned his eyes and rested them on the wingman valley captain. 7 bursting pissing meatballs floated around Bu Fong. In the distance, a domineering voice rang out. Boom! Goldhorn and Silverhorn flew over. Looking at Bu Fong, Jin Jiao's pupils constricted. Bu Fong, stop! Jin Jiao shouted anxiously. His voice was as loud as a rainbow. Bu Fong glanced at Jin Jiao, his face expressionless. With a flick of his finger, an explosive meatball turned into a streak of golden light, flew out, and exploded, devouring the winged man valley captain's remains. Oh, sorry, my hand slipped, Bu Fong said expressionlessly, clasping his hands behind his back as he watched the flames devour the captain. Chapter 1274. My hand slipped. Who the hell would believe that your hand slipped? You don't have the slightest credibility to say that. When everyone saw Bu Fong say this innocently through the light screen, they couldn't help but criticize him inwardly. Naturally, they didn't believe Bu Fong's claim that his hand slipped. In the pit in the distance, flames surged, and the winged man valley captain's body had long been engulfed by the flames. His aura was gone. After all, he was seriously injured and almost killed by the Lord Go's claw. As a result, Bu Fong's explosive meatball had killed him. No one thought that the winged man valley captain could survive, and in fact, he wouldn't be able to. Boom! Flames surged. The next moment, a stream of holy light shot out of the flames and sped toward Bu Fong. When it arrived in front of Bu Fong, it exploded. It was as if a white rain had fallen. The holy light enveloped Bu Fong's body, making him look quite beautiful. Bu Fong narrowed his eyes as he looked at the light dots floating around him. There was a hint of doubt in his eyes. What's this? Bu Fong murmured. Jin Jiao and the others flew over like streams of light and landed beside Bu Fong. Looking at the light mist hovering around Bu Fong, his face turned extremely unsightly. I told you to stop. Why didn't you listen? Jin Jiao asked with an ugly face. My hand slipped. Bu Fong answered expressionlessly. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked indifferent. Your hand slipped? Do you think I'll believe you? The corner of Jin Jiao's mouth twitched. Yu Ji and the others also looked at Bu Fong speechlessly. You knew he was the grandson of the Wingman Valley's great sage, yet you still killed him? Jin Jiao asked. He wanted to kill me, yet I couldn't kill him. Bu Fong looked at Jin Jiao doubtfully. Was there such a saying? Jin Jiao froze for a moment, then sighed. Do you know what this light rain is? This is the light rain released by the Winged Man Valley captain before he died. It's the same as leaving a mark on you. The Winged Man Valley's enemies will find you no matter where you go. Revenge. Bu Fong narrowed his eyes. Jin Jiao looked at Bu Fong and said helplessly, The Winged Man Valley is a small world that will seek revenge for the smallest grievance. I asked you to stop because I wanted you to delay killing him and hand over the Wingman Valley captain to us. He broke the rules and will definitely be punished. Unfortunately, the Wingman Valley captain was killed by Bu Fong with a meatball. They really didn't give him any face at all. Then let's take revenge. It's fine, let them come. Bu Fong said lightly. After saying that, Bu Fong slowly wrapped his Taotai arm with a bandage. Jin Jiao didn't know what to say. He could only look at Bu Fong helplessly. They, the prison overlords, were responsible for protecting the rules. Unfortunately, they encountered a group of kids who didn't follow the rules. Bu Fong gently tapped the ground with his foot, and his figure floated up. He landed in a deep pit. That was where the Winged Man Valley captain's body was. With a wave of his hand, a black jade plate fell into his hand. Putting away the black jade plate, Bu Fong glanced at the prison overlords and the others from the corner of his eyes, then continued forward. Jin Jiao and the others were helpless. They had come here to maintain order, but they seemed a little slow. By the time they arrived, everything was over. Well, the semifinals will continue. Be careful. The Acheron River is very dangerous. Jin Jiao said as he watched Bufang fly away. Swish, swish, swish. In the next moment, the figures of the Hell Overlords disappeared once again. The Earth Prison experts looked at each other in dismay. Even F.A. Wu and F.A. Shang from the West Little Buddhism realm sat down on ground. They had escaped a disaster. The experts of the Earth Prison team glanced at F.A. Wu and F.A. Shang, then sped away. They came to the bank of the Acheron River one after another. The next test they had to face was how to cross the river. After crossing the Acheron River, they would arrive at the town of Acheron. Once there, it meant the semifinals were over. This semifinal was simply a bloody competition. Along the way, the participating teams all suffered heavy casualties. Even the Wingman Valley team was wiped out. The Abyss experts were so frightened that they fled and ran into the Acheron River. After all, even the leader of the Wingman Valley, a two-revolution little saint, was killed. They had offended Bufang, so how could they survive in front of him? They still didn't understand how the little chef had become so strong. The Acheron River kept flowing and rumbling. The blood-red river flowed unceasingly, and within it, there were dried-up bones and remnant souls drifting away. There was no smell of blood in the water. The water was not condensed by blood. Standing on the bank of the Acheron River, one could feel the water vapor rushing toward them. Next, they had to cross the river. However, without a boat, they could only cross the river with their strength. The danger within made many people raise their guard. Flying over the Acheron River was forbidden. This was a saying that had been passed down in Earth Prison since ancient times. Once someone flew, they were likely to suffer a disaster. Therefore, every expert who wanted to cross the Acheron River would choose to take a boat. Just when Bufang was hesitating about whether to borrow Yu's netherworld ship, at some point, F.A. Wu had come to Bufang's side. Thank you for saving my life just now, Owner Bu. I have a boat. Would you like to cross it with me? Owner Bu? F.A. Wu said with a smile. His face was a little pale, but he had already forced out the abyss poison in his body. After recuperating, he would be able to recover his cultivation base. Bufang glanced at F.A. Wu and said, You're welcome. Saving you was just a side trip. F.A. Wu chuckled. In the Yellow Spring River, a blood-colored warship was slowly traversing. It was the warship of the Abyss experts. They had long been scared out of their wits by Bufang, so they were the first to cross the river. The experts of the Earth Prison team also took out a boat. They naturally knew more about the Acheron River. F.A. Wu's heart skipped a beat. Immediately, a golden Buddha ship appeared. The Buddha ship was golden in color, and it was full of carvings, exuding a feeling of peace and tranquility. As soon as Bufang stepped onto the Buddha ship, an invisible Buddha light enveloped his body. Bufang raised his brows slightly. The Buddha light seemed to want to drill into his body and purify Bufang. However, with a sweep of Bufang's divine sense, the Buddha light was expelled. Next to him, F.A. Wu gave Bufang a deep look. Swoosh, the Buddha ship entered the water. The blood-colored river was so turbulent that it slapped the ship's deck, stirring up splashes. The blood-colored splashes were a ghastly sight to behold. Bufang sat cross-legged on the deck. His eyes darkened as he looked at the rolling river, his face indifferent. This wasn't the first time he had crossed the Acheron River. But on the surface of the river, a red mist suddenly appeared. The mist shrouded the surface of the river and stretched as far as the eye could see. It said that the Acheron River is mysterious and leads to the other shore of life. Now it seems that it makes sense. F.A. Wu put his palms together and looked at the blood mist with a serious face. Swoosh, the ships drifted slowly. Not far from them were the blurry figures of Earth Prison ships, and further away were the Abyss's ships. The three ships were slowly moving horizontally. They left ripples on the river's surface. What's that? Suddenly, a shout rang out in the quiet space. It seemed to come from the mouth of an Abyss expert in the distance. Bufang's face froze. F.A. Wu also put his palms together and looked into the distance. F.A. Wu hated the Abyss as well. It's a lotus? What a beautiful lotus. I'll go pick it. Heavens, is this lotus a saint-grade immortal material? No, It doesn't seem to be as simple as saintly-grade immortal materials. A commotion broke out on the Abyss's ship. Everyone was taken aback. Bufong narrowed his eyes, and his mind flickered. A lotus flower? A lotus flower on the Acheron River. In the next moment, something seemed to flash across Bufong's mind, and he recalled the scene when he crossed the Acheron River. The senseless lotus on the Acheron River, Bufong murmured. The powerhouses of the Abyss must have encountered the mysterious senseless lotus. The system had reminded him that the senseless lotus was a divine-grade food ingredient, a treasure that even the system couldn't help but remind him was naturally extraordinary. Rumble. On the Abyss's ship. An expert flew out of the ship and landed lightly on the Acheron River. He gently landed on the underworld river and slowly flew toward the senseless lotus that was quietly floating on the river. Fa Wu put his palms together. It's the hell senseless lotus. That's a legendary item. It represents death and disaster. Fa Wu said, seeming to know many secrets. A commotion broke out on the Hell Team's ship. Rumble. On the Hell Team's ship, some Little Saint experts also rushed out, stepping on the river as if they were walking on flat ground, flying toward the senseless lotus. They wanted to fight for the senseless lotus. A legendary spirit herb was naturally enough to make them go crazy. Get lost. The Abyss experts roared and fought with the Earth Prison experts. The battle broke out instantly. Waves surged, and the whole Acheron River seemed to explode. However, the area around the senseless lotus was still very quiet, floating quietly. Bufong sat on the deck, his eyes focused. Bam, bam, bam. The battle grew fiercer and fiercer. The Abyss and Earth Prison experts all joined the battle. They fought their way up to the sky from the ground. They rushed out of the hazy blood mist. However, as soon as they got out of the blood mist, suddenly, a blood-colored palm emerged out of thin air in the sky. The palm blotted out the sky like the palm of a fiend god, and it came crashing down. The Earth Prison experts and the Abyss experts were slapped into the Acheron River. No flying was allowed in the Acheron River, and only supreme experts were allowed to fly. The miserable howls came to an abrupt end. Swoosh, corpses floated up from the river. They were the corpses of the Earth Prison experts and the Abyss experts. These corpses floated, slowly drifting around the senseless lotus. It was as if they were singing a sad song. Suddenly, amidst the hazy blood mist, a small boat swayed as it approached. The leisurely sound of a flute drifted out of the boat. Fa Wu's pupils constricted, and his face changed dramatically. He put his palms together, sat cross-legged, and began to recite Buddhist scriptures. His whole body glowed with a golden light to resist the invasion of the flute. Bufong rose to his feet, clasped his hands behind his back, and stood on the deck. The wind blew over, fluttering his vermilion robe. Senseless lotus soul fisherman. It's been a long time. Bufong murmured faintly. The leisurely sound of the flute was full of charm. It drifted slowly over, as if to wash away people's memories, make them forget everything, and embark on the road of life. The old man was wearing a bamboo hat and a blood-colored straw raincoat. He had an unshaven beard, and he was holding a white bone flute. The melodious sound came from the flute. The sound of the flute entered his ears. Bufong's eyes suddenly burst with golden light. The next moment, in the whirlpool in his spirit sea, the divine phantom spirit opened its eyes. His divine will poured out like a rainbow. The sound of the flute was immediately pushed away. Last time, Bufong had to rely on Lord Go to resist the flute. But now, with his divine will, Bufong had nothing to fear. Swish! The sound of the flute stopped. Holding his fishing rod, the soul fisherman gently touched the corpses of the experts hovering around the senseless lotus. Immediately, one twisted soul after another was fished out and stuffed into the fish basket on the boat. How terrifying! Blood trickled from Fa Wu's mouth and nose as he stared in horror at the old man on the Acheron River. Standing on the deck, Bufong looked straight at the old man. Suddenly, his eyes flashed. Enter the helplessness rebirth. enter the cycle of reincarnation. The old man's chuckle drifted in the air. After the souls were fished away by the old man, the corpses of the abyss and earth prison experts sank into the river and turned into bones. The old man seemed to sense something. He jerked his head up and looked at Bufong, who was standing on the boat. The old man's eyes narrowed. It was a familiar face. It's you, the young man who asked me for a flower of helplessness. Sitting cross-legged on the boat, the old man's hoarse voice echoed across the Acheron River. Bufong looked at the old man, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly. The flower of helplessness. Senior, do you have any more flowers of helplessness? Bufong asked, looking at the old man. The flower of helplessness. Yes, I have from 1 to 9 petals. The old man said. Bufong's eyes narrowed. A 9-petal flower of helplessness. Bufong's breathing became rapid. The Acheron wine of helplessness was made with a leaf of Acheron grass and a petal of the flower of helplessness. Although it tasted good, it was not good enough for Bufong. It was not easy for him to come to Earth Prison again. He came to the Acheron River. How could Bufong return empty-handed? Bufong had long wanted to brew a jar of peerless wine. With the 9-leaf Acheron grass and the 9-petal flower of helplessness, with his hands clasped behind his back, Bufong took a step forward and walked out of the boat. Senior, I want the 9-petal flower of helplessness. What can I trade for it? Bufong asked. 9-petal flower of helplessness, young man. Your appetite is getting bigger and bigger. Now you don't have that dog to protect you, the old man said. But after that, he flipped his hand. A flower that looked like a white magnolia floated in his hand. It was a pure white flower with 9 petals, exuding dense energy. This is the 9-petal flower of helplessness. If you want it, exchange it with your life. Chapter 1275. In Forbidden Soul City. In the central square, the light screen of the projection array was reflecting the scene in the Acheron River. At this moment, the whole square was silent. Everyone was shocked by the scene on the screen. Many of the people present came from other small worlds, so they didn't know much about Earth Prison. Before this, they had rarely come to Earth Prison to investigate. They only knew that the Acheron River was dangerous, but they had no idea how dangerous it was. Now, however, they knew. The floating bones, the roaring souls, the pure, white, senseless lotus, a drifting boat, and the soul fisherman's blood-colored palm. This scene caused their breathing to quicken. It was as if they were facing an unimaginable experience. The Abyss experts were all dead. They had escaped Bufong's revenge, but they died because of their greed. Many Earth Prison experts had also died. It was a disaster for Earth Prison. Earth Prison was supposed to be the biggest winner of this semi-final. But in the face of the treasure, the senseless lotus, they couldn't hold back their greed and made a move. As a result, they sank to the bottom of the Acheron River together with the Abyss experts. The appearance of the soul fisherman and the sound of his flute made everyone's hair stand on end. If it weren't for Bufong's interruption, many people present might have lost their minds. The conversation between Bufong and the soul fisherman made many experts watching the competition through the light screen short of breath. The 9-petal flower of helplessness. Many people gasped in shock. Although the 9-petal flower of helplessness was not as precious as the 9-leaf Acheron grass, it was also a sacred-grade immortal material. It was hard to believe that such a treasure was in the hands of the soul fisherman. However, many people also understood. The soul fisherman was in charge of the path to the bridge of helplessness, and the flower of helplessness grew on the bridge. So it was normal for the old man to have the 9-petal flower of helplessness. Exchanging my life for it. Bufong narrowed his eyes and looked at the old man. The old man's words didn't seem to be friendly. This old man seems to want revenge for what happened last time. However, the current Bufong was no longer the Bufong of the past. Back then, with the Lord Go around, the Lord Go had scared the old man away with a single glance. Now, the latter was relying on the fact that the Lord Go was not around to get back at him. This made Bufong twitch the corner of his mouth involuntarily. The soul fisherman's aura was very strong and mysterious. It was as if he was shrouded in a layer of fog, making it difficult to see through him. However, judging from how the Lord Go's glare was enough to make the old man piss in his pants. This old man's cultivation base was definitely not that of the great sage. If he had reached the level of the great sage, he wouldn't have been scared away by a single look from the Lord Go. The old man was wearing a bamboo hat. His eyes were gloomy and cold. Holding the 9-petal flower of helplessness in his hand, a sinister smile appeared on his face. Bufong stared at him. He stared for a long time. Have you made up your mind? If you want the flower of helplessness, you'll have to exchange your life for it, the old man said. Bufong watched as the old man stepped on the boat and drifted toward the depths of the blood mist. His eyes narrowed. Then let me see how strong you, the soul fisherman, are. Bufong's heart thumped. The old man's flute could not break his divine will, which meant that the other party's mental force was not as strong as he had imagined. In that case, he could take a gamble. In order to brew the best wine, Bufong was willing to go all out. He landed and stepped on the river as if he was walking on flat ground. The old man looked at Bufong with a faint smile. The boat gradually dissipated in the hazy blood mist. Suddenly, Bufong's eyes narrowed. Then, with a thought, his divine will immediately spread, setting off raging waves. The aura on his body began to rise, reaching the level of a little saint. I want the flower, and I want my life too, Bufong said lightly. The water under his feet exploded, and he turned into a stream of light and arrived in a flash. As Bufong ran wildly, the Acheron River also exploded. He went straight for the soul fisherman's boat. He's crazy. Owner Boo is crazy. How could he attack the soul fisherman? That's a magical flower on the Acheron River. How dare this little chef attack it? Whether it was the people behind the light screen, or F.A. Wu and the others on the Buddha boat, they were all shocked. They never thought that Bufong would dare to attack the soul fisherman, who made them feel suffocated. The soul fisherman did not seem to expect this either. His eyes narrowed. He flew into a rage. How dare you? How dare you attack me? The soul fisherman was furious. The boat exploded in an instant, and blood-colored water splashed everywhere. A terrible aura began to spread, rising inch by inch. Buzz, a powerful, oppressive aura filled the air, suppressing everyone. A ripping sound rang out. With a flick of the fishing rod, the fishing line on it was like a sharp sword, slashing toward Bufong's head. It was as if it wanted to cut Bufong into two halves. Bufong's mind flickered. The dragon bone kitchen knife appeared in his hand. Buzz, the dragon bone kitchen knife shook, and a dragon roar resounded through the sky. Boom! His aura surged. Bufong hovered in midair. The phantom of an overlord emerged behind him, almost materializing. The overlord was holding a knife. The overlord knife cut through the sky. As the knife slashed down, its phantom overlapped. 13 slashes turned into one. Buzz, the knife slashed down and collided with the fishing line. Boom! Bufong's expression changed slightly. He felt the great force coming from the hook. That huge force actually broke through his overlord 13 blades. This old man was very strong. However, Bufong's eyes narrowed. At most, he was a 4th revolution little saint. Bufong had an estimate in his heart, and he immediately became more confident. If he weren't on the forbidden Acheron River, Bufong would have thrown out a perishing pot. Once the perishing pot appeared, it would at least make this old man behave. How dare you? A newborn calf is not afraid of a tiger. This old man will send you to the afterlife. The old man roared. Bufong looked at him indifferently. His mind sank into his spirit sea. Then, the vermilion robe on Bufong's body suddenly burned with a scarlet flame. The flames soared into the sky, and the scorching heat seemed to burn everything. A bird cry rang out from Bufong's body. Bufong raised his head, his hair fluttering in the wind. A moment later, it turned scarlet, as if facing the wind. The flaming wings on his back spread out, gently flapping, and flaming feathers fluttered. Bufong opened his eyes, and there seemed to be flames burning in his pupils. Finally came out for a breath of fresh air. The red-haired Bufong grinned. Hovering in midair, he put his thumb and middle finger together and tapped his lips lightly. On the Buddha's ship, Fa Wu looked dumbfounded. Owner Boo, change his hair color again. This time it's scarlet. I've never seen it before. Gold, white, black, and now red. How many colors is this little chef going to change? Is changing your hair color what you rely on to provoke me? I'll pay you back today. Rumble. The old man held the fishing rod and slapped it hard on the Acheron River. Then, the fishing rod was lifted from the surface of the Acheron River. Walala! Water splashed. The water rolled and turned into a huge blood-colored dragon. It was transformed from the Acheron River, and it was huge, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. Wings flapping behind him, red-haired Bufong looked indifferently at the blood-colored water dragon and twitched the corner of his mouth. I hate dragons the most in my life, especially stupid dragons. Bufong said, You're just an old man who picks up trash on a river. How dare you show off dragons in front of me? Bufong's figure became blurry in midair. It was as if he was teleporting. In the blink of an eye, he appeared over the blood-colored water dragon's head. Then he slapped the dragon's head with his palm, causing it to explode inch by inch. Bufong, a one-revolution little saint, seemed to be able to fight even a fourth-revolution little saint with the artifact spirit possession. Suddenly, a flaming vermilion bird broke free from Bufong's body, roaring and flying away. The old man pulled out another water dragon, which collided with the flaming vermilion bird. The white steam that rose from the river was constantly hazy, causing the scene on the surface of the river to become blurry in an instant. The audience behind the light screen was in an uproar, wailing and wailing, because they couldn't see the battle clearly. They could only see a red beam of light, constantly teleporting. Its speed was too fast for their eyes to follow. The battle seemed to be reaching its climax. Boom, the water splashed. The red-haired Bufong landed on the river, frowning as he looked at the old man in the small boat. Little host is still too weak. Otherwise, I could kill this pretentious fisherman with one slap. He murmured softly. All of a sudden, his red hair faded. His hair turned black once again. Bufong furrowed his brows as he looked at the old man, standing on the small boat. Even if he used the artifact's spirit possession and relied on the vermilion bird, he might not be able to defeat that old man. Although the old man wasn't strong, he wasn't as strong as him. Did he have to give up the 9-petal flower of helplessness? If he couldn't find the 9-petal flower of helplessness this time, he wouldn't have a chance to brew Bufong's peerless wine. Thus, Bufong wouldn't give up easily. His eyes focused. Bufong heaved a long sigh. He tiptoed on the river. His figure flew out instantly. Again, young man, you won't shed a tear until you see your coffin, the soul fisherman said. However, he had just finished his words. His eyes widened. He saw a dried pot emerge in Bufong's hand. The scorching dried pot floated up and down. There was a high temperature emanating from it and a fragrance lingering in the air. However, what made the soul fisherman's heart beat faster was the terrifying energy fluctuations and pressure emanating from the dried pot were terrifying. That feeling, it made the soul fisherman's hair stand on end. Swish! The small boat suddenly sank. Bufong's figure landed on the boat, just one step away from the old man. Bufong indifferently looked at the old man. 9-petal flower of helplessness. Can you get it to me? If I brew the peerless wine, I'll give you a jar. Bufong looked at the old man and said seriously, Wine? This young man wanted the 9-petal flower of helplessness to brew wine? Does this old man look like he's short of wine? The soul fisherman said coldly. Yes, holding the perishing pot in one hand. Bufong pondered for a while before answering. The old man's eyes widened. He wished he could fight Bufong to the death. Suddenly, his eyes shrank. That was because another wok had appeared in Bufong's other hand. Sharp sword energy spread in an instant, as if it was going to cut the void. What is this? The old man's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Looking at the sword pot in Bufong's other hand, he shivered. If the perishing pot was only a threat to him, then the sword pot made him feel a terrible aura of death. Enough, The 9-petal flower of helplessness is yours. But you have to keep your word. You must give me a jar of the wine you brew. No one knew if it was because of the power of the perishing pot and the sword pot, or for some other reason. The old man, who had been entangled with Bufong for a long time, suddenly chose to give the 9-petal flower of helplessness to Bufong. This made Bufong a little dazed. This old man, where's your persistence? You have that dog to back you up. I can't stop you. If you want it, you can take it eventually. The old man put on his bamboo hat again and sat on the boat. Bufong put away the perishing pot and the sword pot, then took the 9-petal flower of helplessness from the old man. Rich spiritual energy rushed into Bufong's body, causing Bufong's eyes to constrict. Compared to a 1-petal flower of helplessness, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. The flower didn't seem precious to the old man. He didn't seem to care much about giving it to Bufong. Bufong got off the boat. The old man sat on it, singing a ballad as he drifted into the blood mist. The leisurely sound of a bone flute drifted out and gradually dissipated. Bufong looked at the old man in the distance and breathed a sigh of relief. He put away the 9-petal flower of helplessness. Bufong planned to walk to the other side of the river. Suddenly, his body froze, and he furrowed his brows. He tilted his head slightly. His pupils constricted. Beneath his feet, the white senseless lotus was swaying and stopped. It was blooming with a gentle white light. Senseless lotus, Bufong murmured. Then he bent down. He raised his hand and gently grabbed the lotus's stem. Thud! The senseless lotus was picked. Rumble. After the senseless lotus was picked, Bufong's mind suddenly flickered. He jerked his head up. He looked at the blood mist. There, in the blood mist, a bronze palace swayed and drifted out, creak. The tightly closed bronze door of the bronze palace suddenly opened a gap. Through the gap, a pair of eyes stared at Bufong, who was holding the senseless lotus. Acheron Valley. The great sage of the Acheron Valley, who was leisurely playing with a blade of grass, suddenly shivered. He turned his head to look at the Acheron River in disbelief. The grass in his hand was broken by him. The senseless lotus was picked. How could anyone pick the senseless lotus? In front of the cave of the fallen gods, the forbidden land of Earth Prison, Lord Go, who was about to do something, was shocked. His eyes widened. Bufong, boy, you picked the senseless lotus. Now we're in big trouble. Chapter 1276. The senseless lotus had been floating in the Acheron River for tens of thousands of years, and no one had ever picked it up. Although it looked as if it was within reach, anyone who approached the senseless lotus and wanted to pick it would be cursed with disaster. They would fall before they could even get close. Thus, the senseless lotus had become a synonym for disaster. No one had ever thought that they could pick it. With a crack, the sound of the lotus's stem breaking reverberated. It was crisp and sweet, lingering in the entire space. The surging Acheron River seemed to become calm at this moment, incomparably quiet and tranquil. Everyone behind the light screen was dumbstruck, looking at Bufong in a daze. Just like the Acheron River that had calmed down, it looked extremely tranquil on the surface, but inside, it contained towering waves. All that was left in their hearts was fear, especially the Earth Prison overlords. Their eyes shrank to the size of soybeans, not knowing how to express their feelings at this moment. The senseless lotus on the Acheron River was picked by someone. Before this, they had never thought that someone could pick the senseless lotus. Looking at the bewildered Bufong on the light screen, holding the white senseless lotus, the faces of the 4 Earth Prison overlords twitched uncontrollably. It's him again. It's this kid again. Why are all these shameful things related to this kid? This matter, we have to inform Lord Inglong. Although we don't know much about the senseless lotus, it's something from the Acheron River Basin. We don't know if it will arouse the wrath of the great sage of the Acheron River. It's better to inform Lord Inglong. Jean Jiao's mouth twitched as he rubbed the horn on his forehead. But Lord Inglong is watching Lord Hades' situation in the Demon King Pass. Do we really want to tell Lord Inglong? Yin Jiao hugged his gourd, his eyes deep and melancholic. As soon as he said that, Jin Jiao was a little hesitant. Lord Hades was attacking the 18 Demon King passes. That was something left by the old Hades. Lord Inglong was in charge of taking care of them. If they called Lord Inglong over, who knew what would happen? Forget it, don't worry about it. Let's hurry over. Jin Jiao rubbed his head in distress, but he had yet to make a decision. Yu Qi carried the tyrant on her shoulder and shot forward, transforming into a streak of light that disappeared into the horizon. Yu Qi. Seeing Yu Qi disappear, Yin Jiao's silver robe fluttered as he followed her. Luo Ji shouldered the death god's scythe, her pink hair fluttering. After giggling for a while, he tapped his long legs on the ground, and his figure shot out. Sure enough, wherever Brother Bufong is around, things are very interesting. Luo Ji's laughter lingered in the air. Jin Jiao looked at the 3 Earth Prison overlords leaving, his face speechless. There was a roar. Then, he rushed out of Forbidden Soul City again. Looking at the senseless lotus in his hand, Bufong couldn't help but narrow his eyes. The senseless lotus was indeed a spirit herb praised by the system. The energy it contained was so rich that Bufong had never seen it before. The explosive impact made Bufong feel a little scared. The senseless lotus bloomed with milky white light, like a piece of warm jade. The dense lotus petals seemed to have fine lines moving, which looked very exquisite. At the center of the white lotus was a milky lotus pod, in which there were lotus seeds that emitted pale gold light. This was the senseless lotus. Boom! After Bufong picked the senseless lotus, the entire Acheron River quieted down. Suddenly, Bufong raised his head and looked into the distance. There, Bronze Palace was riding the wind and waves, approaching. The blood-colored river water splashed, and the palace became more and more obvious in the blood mist, emitting fluctuations that made people's hearts palpitate. The palace was huge, floating in the Acheron River. Squeak! It was a sound that seemed to come from ancient times. Bufong's mind trembled. His eyes shot out an incredible light. There was an eye in the crack of the bronze door, staring at him. What kind of eye was that? It seemed that chaos was born in it, and sometimes emptiness was destroyed in it. What a terrifying feeling. At that moment, Bufong felt that his divine will was about to collapse. Under the gaze of that eye, in his spirit's sea, the golden divine dragon trembled. The vermilion bird clenched its wings. Even the white tiger was no longer arrogant. It lowered its head, and the black turtle, who had been sleeping with its eyes closed, opened its eyes wide and let out a low roar. Because Bufong was immersed in the chaos in that eye, he did not sense this strange phenomenon. The system was silent and did not make sound. It seemed that under the gaze of that eye, the system was quiet and did not speak. What was going on? Bufong had never felt like this before. It was as if he had been stripped naked, and all his secrets could not be hidden. She was being stared at by others. It's him, the black turtle's deep voice rang out. Then, he slowly fell silent again. It was as if that man's name was a taboo, and he dare not say it. But a hazy blood mist enveloped them. The Buddha's ship disappeared. Fa Wu and the others drifted away, and when they came back to their senses, they were already gone. When they came to their senses, their ship had sailed out of the blood mist. Umaba, the senseless lotus and the bronze palace. I have an intuition that there is a connection between the two. Owner Bu has done something incredible. Fa Wu put his palms together and looked at the hazy blood mist with a conflicted look on his face. The Earth Prison ship continued to sail. Then, both of them landed on the shore. Suddenly, they found that their ship had reached the other side of the Acheron River. However, that fearsome little chef had completely fallen into the blood mist. Was he going to die? Who are you? Bufong stared at the pair of eyes in the bronze palace, took a deep breath, and said expressionlessly. His voice rang out in the hazy blood mist, but it kept echoing. No one answered him. Only the sound of the bronze palace approaching could be heard. That voice was like an invisible hand that was constantly approaching in the darkness. It made people feel as if all their pores were about to explode. Through the light screen, All the people who saw it took a deep breath. Suddenly, the eye in the bronze palace shifted its gaze. Suddenly, the eyeballs moved. All the people through the light screen went into an uproar. They were all startled. As soon as the eyeballs moved, they seemed to see each and every one of them through the light screen. It was as if a nightmare had been planted in their hearts, scaring them so much that their legs turned to jelly. There was no doubt that there was a great, terrible existence in the bronze palace. Many experts from the small worlds were horrified. Sizzle! Suddenly, the light screen became blurry. There were actually some lightning arcs dancing on it. Soon, the whole light screen became hazy, making it impossible for people to see what was inside. The scene was transmitted to all the surrounding small worlds. Everyone was extremely shocked. What exactly is in the bronze palace on the Acheron River? And what kind of existence did that little chef provoke by picking the senseless lotus? In Nether Prison, in the Deting clan's land, an expert shrouded in black mist looked at the light screen shrouded in lightning arcs, and his eyes narrowed. This feeling, impossible. This guy can't be still alive. Great sage Acheron floated in midair, his white hair waving in the wind. He was a young man who looked like an 18-year-old, but his eyes were full of vicissitudes of life, as if he had experienced countless years. Great sage Acheron was hovering in midair, looking straight at the Acheron River, at the hazy blood mist, and at it. His eyes were shining brightly, and there seemed to be a vague, small world emerging over his head. The small world floated up and down as if to oppress this part of the world. The senseless lotus appeared in the Acheron River 10,000 years ago. It was like a key that no one could get, but today, someone picked it. Did I wait for the fated person, or did I wait for a scapegoat? Great sage Acheron had a deep look in his eyes. The next moment, he twisted his body. He began to walk slowly toward the Acheron River. Bronze Palace. I, the great sage, have been neighbors for 10,000 years. Today, I'd like to see your true face. In the cave of the fallen gods, a forbidden land in Earth prison, it was a zone shrouded in pitch-black nether energy. Lord Go's chubby figure was standing upright on the broken bluestone road outside the cave of the fallen gods. He seemed to be sensing something. Suddenly, a creak rang out. The dilapidated door of the cave of the fallen gods opened. A ghostly fire that seemed to be burning emerged from it. Then, a skeleton in armor walked out of the door. The armor shone with a golden light, as if it was blooming with the ultimate brilliance, attracting all eyes. However, for such a mighty armor to be worn by a skeleton, it felt a little strange. Crack! 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 Through the door, Bufong looked into the cave of the fallen gods. He could see that it was a vast grotto, and the grotto was densely packed with tombstones. Some of the tombstones were shaking, and from them, skeletons were slowly climbing out of the ground. The armored skeleton, who had just climbed out of the grotto, saw Lord Go. The ghostly fire in his empty eye sockets flickered. Then he let out a hissing scream. "It's you again, mangy dog. What do you want? How dare you steal the treasures of my cave of the fallen gods?" Lord Go froze. His fat shook, and a look of embarrassment came over his face. I didn't pay attention, and I was discovered. Lord Dog's nose twitched. Then it turned around, leaving its chubby dog but to the skeleton. Then it left, leaving a trail of dust behind it. Lord Go happened to pass by, and I'm going to greet an old friend. Lord Go is leaving now to find Bufong Boy. The ghostly fire in the armored skeleton's eyes blazed. "Mangy dog, only a ghost would believe you. You want to steal the treasure of my cave of the fallen gods again? No way." After saying that, the door behind the skeleton flung open. Crack, crack, crack. Skeletons clad in armor immediately swarmed out from within. A terrible aura of death filled the air. However, at this moment, Lord Go had already disappeared. The bronze palace was getting closer and closer. Finally, it was in front of Bufong. A gust of cold wind blew over, causing Bufong's hair to flutter unceasingly. His cold eyes gazed at Bufong, making Bufong feel cold all over. Squeak! The gap in the bronze door widened. Sizzle. Sizzle. Bu Fong's eyes shrank. Something evil seemed to surge out from behind the door. A wisp of aura came out, as if it wanted to destroy the illusionary void. The terrifying power made Bu Fong shiver. This feeling was as if he was facing true death. This bronze door was different from the bronze door in the Hidden Dragon continent. It was totally different. After 10,000 years, you're finally here. The key to the door has finally been taken by the Destined One. A voice arose from behind the bronze door. That voice was like silk, whispering in Bu Fong's ears. However, Bu Fong couldn't tell if the owner of the voice was a man or a woman. "Who are you?" Bu Fong asked one more time. However, the voice didn't answer. Bu Fong seemed to hear a sigh. That sigh contained reluctance, helplessness, and anguish. "Today, you open the door for me. But in the future, who will open the door for you?" the voice whispered. It was a little lonely, a little indignant, and even a terrible obsession to destroy everything. Bu Fong's eyes shrank. It was the first time he had ever felt so frightened. Swish, all of a sudden, the hazy blood mist suddenly dispersed. A figure shrouded in light slowly walked over from outside. Bu Fong struggled to turn his neck, looking over. He saw an 18-year-old young man with peerless talent. The young man had white hair, and the corners of his mouth curved into a smile as he walked over leisurely. He held a blade of grass in his hand. That blade of grass had 9 leaves, emitting immense essence energy. "Old neighbor, it's been 10,000 years. It's not easy to meet you." Great Sage Acheron looked straight at the bronze gate, talking and laughing. With one hand clasped behind his back and the other holding the blade of grass, Great Sage Acheron floated over. His feet stepped on the surface of the Acheron River. His steps didn't cause any ripples. All of a sudden, Great Sage Acheron approached the bronze palace. An invisible barrier suddenly appeared in front of him. Old neighbor, you're really not friendly," Great Sage Acheron said with a smile. Then he raised his hand. Over his palm, there seemed to be extinguishing energy surging. His palm slapped toward the invisible barrier as if he wanted to break it. The eyes in the bronze palace turned. They fell on Great Sage Acheron. A cold death energy suddenly shrouded him. In a flash, it covered Great Sage Acheron's body. Great Sage Acheron, who had been contented, suddenly stiffened. "Get lost." A voice that belonged to either a man or a woman rang out. A moment later, slap. A palm flew out of the bronze palace. That palm flew fast, slapping Great Sage Acheron's face. Slap. Great Sage Acheron flew backward, blood spurting from his nostrils. He was slapped into a blood mist. Bu Fong expressionlessly looked at Great Sage Acheron, who was slapped away. The corner of his mouth twitched. This fellow, who hired this idiot? Outside the blood mist, the void was torn. The fat on Lord Go's body shivered as it emerged, just in time to see a figure flying out of the blood mist. Lord Go was bewildered. He raised his paw about to paw. Chapter 1277. Wait, it's me. Great Sage Acheron stopped, holding the grass. The corners of his mouth twitched as he shouted. There was a bright red handprint on his face. Lord Dog was stunned. The paw that was originally raised also stopped. That was because he felt that the voice was very familiar. "How come it's you, old man?" Finally, Lord Go saw the appearance of Great Sage Acheron. He widened his eyes in disbelief. This old man seemed to have been sent flying out of the blood mist. Was there an existence in Earth Prison that could send this old man flying? Cough, cough. I was sent out by my old neighbor. Great Sage Acheron was embarrassed, but he also felt wronged. He, the mighty yellow spring Great Sage, was slapped by someone, and the palm print was still on his face. What could he say? That neighbor of 10,000 years didn't care about friendship at all. By the way, Mangy Dog, the little fellow you used to protect, is in the blood mist. With my chi observing technique, I can see that the little fellow's glabella is dark and filled with a bloody light. I'm afraid he's going to be plagued by misfortune. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. Great Sage Acheron said seriously, wiping the blood from his nostrils. Lord Go glanced at Great Sage Acheron and rolled his eyes. This old man was trying to persuade him to go in. However, Lord Go really wanted to go in. That kid Bufong had fallen into such a dangerous place, and the enemy could send Great Sage Acheron flying with a slap. It meant that the existence Bufong was facing now was not ordinary. Sigh, this kid Bufong is really troublesome. Lord Dog sighed, and the fat on his body trembled. Then, with graceful cat-like steps, he slowly walked toward the blood mist. After a while, his figure disappeared into the hazy blood mist. Great Sage Acheron watched as Lord Go disappeared. He rubbed his face, which had been slapped by Lord Go, and heaved a sigh of relief. Then, he followed behind Lord Go. The Great Sage Acheron met his old neighbor again. Naturally, Bufong did not know that the person who had just been slapped away was the Great Sage Acheron. However, he could still feel the terror of the existence in the Bronze Palace. Just the look alone made him shiver. System, do you know who he is? The mysterious owner of the Bronze Palace. Bufong looked at the Bronze Palace expressionlessly and met its gaze. In his heart, however, he kept asking the system questions. However, the system did not make a sound at all, as if it had gone completely silent. This kind of situation shocked Bufong's mind. How is this possible? Why did it feel like the system was hiding from the owner of this Bronze Palace? What happened? What happened? Who is the owner of this Bronze Palace? You're too weak now, but sooner or later, you will be like me. That pair of eyes seemed to be filled with chaos, which can make people sink into it. The voice of a man and a woman arose. Then, the Bronze Palace's gate opened wider. Sizzle, a pitch-black energy seeped out of the palace. That pitch-black energy was not nether energy. It seemed to be a very evil energy. That energy made Bufong's heart beat faster. It looked like a disaster in the legends. Buzz, the senseless lotus in his hand, suddenly became boiling hot, breaking free from Bufong's hand. It hovered between Bufong and the Bronze Palace, emitting immense energy and light. Bufong's eyes shrank, gazing at the senseless lotus. A moment later, in Bufong's disbelieving eyes, a hand stretched out of the Bronze Palace. It was an almost perfect hand. It was well-proportioned, beautiful, and perfectly proportioned. There was not a single flaw. It was soft and beautiful, but full of power. The skin was fair like white jade, without any impurities. It was as if there were no pores, perfectly round and perfect. Each finger was slender, like a work of art carefully crafted by the heavens. It was so perfect that it made people feel ashamed. The hand stretched out, holding the senseless lotus. Buzz, all of a sudden, inside the senseless lotus, 9 golden lotus seeds suddenly flew out and landed in the palm of the perfect arm. Then, the hand slowly retracted into the Bronze Palace. The senseless lotus is for you. Make it into a dish, and it can help you avoid a disaster. The voice in the Bronze Palace said. Bufong was in a trance. The senseless lotus suddenly floated over. A moment later, it dissipated in front of his eyes, disappearing. Bufong's eyes suddenly focused, because he found that in the heaven and earth farmland, the senseless lotus was actually floating there. It kept flying and finally landed on the myriad treasures heaven tree. The senseless lotus fell on the myriad treasures heaven tree, as if it had taken root. It was perfectly round and flawless, as if the senseless lotus should have grown on the myriad treasures heaven tree. What was going on? Boom! In the heaven and earth farmland, suddenly, a big change happened. Nyohan-san, wearing his crystal glasses, hurried out of the wooden house and happened to see this incredible scene. At this moment, the spirit energy of the entire heaven and earth farmland suddenly rose. In the blink of an eye, the entire heaven and earth farmland expanded again. You, holding little Hu, stared blankly at the scene as if she couldn't believe it. In the heaven and earth farmland, spirit herbs bloomed, flowers bloomed, and seedlings grew. There seemed to be many strange phenomena being born. The entire farmland seemed to have been upgraded to a new level. What the F asterisk CK? What did Honorbu do this time? Neo Hansen took off his glasses, and his eyes widened. He felt that the heaven and earth farmland's will of the Great Path seemed to have become stronger. Bu Fong withdrew his mind. His eyes were fixed on the existence of the Bronze Palace. All of a sudden, Bu Fong's mind shook, and he turned his head to look. There, two figures emerged. The Lord Go was walking like a cat, and the great sage Acheron, who had been slapped away. The expert in the Bronze Palace also saw the Lord Go and the great sage Acheron. However, he just glanced at them, then withdrew his eyes. In the end, the eyes in the Bronze Palace stared at Bu Fong again. "I'm leaving. Next time we meet, I hope you can surprise me." The voice of a man and a woman rang out. Finally, the bronze door opened with a loud bang. Buzz, terrifying energy gushed out from the Bronze Palace. Before the Lord Go and the great sage Acheron could get close, their faces changed dramatically. A dog barked. It seemed to be roaring in the sky. The Lord Go's figure flew over. The exquisite dog paw suddenly enlarged, wrapping Bu Fong inside. Carrying Bu Fong, it flew out of the Acheron River. This kind of power, my neighbor, is incredible. The great sage Acheron muttered. Light shone brightly. There seemed to be a figure emerging from the bronze door. That peerless figure floated out, slowly disappearing into the depths of the void. Fine cracks slowly appeared on the Bronze Palace. Eventually, it lost its radiance, shrouded in dust, and became dim. Rumble. The Acheron River surged again. At the same time, the lightning covering the light curtain dispersed. Everybody could see the situation in the Acheron River. Many people widened their eyes in disbelief. However, they found that there was nothing there anymore. There was only an old, dilapidated bronze palace floating. Bu Fong looked at the dilapidated bronze palace, feeling bewildered at this moment. The bronze palace was exactly the same as the one in the hidden dragon continent. It was also dilapidated, and it had lost its terrifying pressure. Perhaps the bronze palace in the hidden dragon continent used to have such earth-shaking pressure, which contained an unparalleled existence. However, in the long river of time, the existence in the bronze palace was the same as today. Someone took the key and opened the door, allowing that unparalleled existence to leave. The blood mist slowly dispersed. The Acheron River resumed its original appearance. The vermilion robe on Bu Fong's body fluttered. Swish! Lord Go brought Bu Fong and landed on the banks of the Acheron River. "Kid, you're really lucky. That fluctuation just now. Even I, Lord Go, felt my heart beat faster." "Who was that guy?" Lord Go said, grinning. Bu Fong shook his head. He didn't know who it was, but he believed that they would meet again in the future. At that time, he must see that guy's true face. He had a feeling that the other was someone he had to meet on his way to becoming the god of cooking. He couldn't hide. He couldn't avoid it. Rumble. In the sky of Earth Prison, a rumbling sound could be heard. Lord Go and the great sage Acheron raised their heads to look, their eyes narrowing. Sure enough, it can't be hidden. Those old fellows in Nether Prison also felt it, Lord Go said, raising his head to look at the sky. The great sage Acheron nodded. "I can't believe Nether Prison held the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path this time, and they even put the competition in the territory under my jurisdiction. Nether Prison is stirring up trouble," said the great sage Acheron. "Don't tell me those old fellows have taken a fancy to the 9-leaf Acheron grass planted by me, the great sage?" The great sage Acheron's face suddenly twisted. At the mention of the 9-leaf Acheron grass, Bu Fong suddenly glanced at the great sage Acheron. "Bu Fong, boy, go on with the competition. I, Lord Go, have something to do," Lord Go said, glancing at Bu Fong. Bu Fong nodded. "You'd better be careful. Nether Prison is not a good guy. This competition is not simple," Lord Go said seriously. Bu Fong nodded again. Then, Lord Go tore the void and disappeared once again. The great sage Acheron glanced at Bu Fong with the grass in his hand. Suddenly, he found that Bufong was staring at the 9-leaf acheron grass in his hand. "Little fellow, don't look at it. Otherwise, I don't mind feeding you to my torch dragon." The great sage Acheron held the grass warily and threatened Bufong. Then, he turned into a beam of light and sped away in a flash. Watching the great sage Acheron disappear, Bufong felt a little pity. If he could get the 9-leaf acheron grass, he would have a chance to brew the best wine in the world. "It seems that I have to find a way to get this 9-leaf acheron grass." Bufong thought to himself. The town of Acheron. It was a desolate town with few people living in it. Outside the town was a vast open space. Fa Wu and Fa Shang stood quietly where they were. There were only 2 contestants left in the Earth Prison team, and both of them stood with unsightly faces. The others were all dead. One had to admit that this semi-final was indeed cruel. Fa Wu turned his head and looked into the distance, as if he was expecting something. A gust of wind blew over, stirring up the yellow sand. So in the middle of the sand, a figure slowly walked over. His thin and slender figure seemed a little frail under the blowing of the wind and sand. "It's Onarbu." Fa Wu's eyes lit up, and Fa Shang was pleasantly surprised. The experts of the Earth Prison team took a deep breath. Behind a light screen, all the people who saw Bufong couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. It never occurred to them that Bufong could walk out of the Acheron River alive. The Bronze Palace had given them an extremely oppressive feeling. It was as if the existence in it could kill them with just a glance, which made them shiver all over. They all thought that Bufong would die in the face of such an existence. However, Bufong had walked out alive. What exactly happened in there? Everyone was curious. When Bufong came to the town, he gave Fa Wu and the 2 surviving members of the Earth Prison team a puzzled look. "Why don't you go in?" Bufong asked. "We're waiting for you." Fa Wu smiled and looked at Bufong with mixed emotions. He had thought that Bufong was just an ordinary chef from the Heaven Chief realm. He never thought that Onarbu could not only cook super delicious dishes, but also be so mysterious. He could actually pick the senseless lotus. Wait, the senseless lotus? Fa Wu's eyes suddenly froze, and his breathing became a little rapid. The senseless lotus. How could such a divine item be in the hands of this little chef? An innocent man gets into trouble because of his wealth. Onarbu is in trouble. Buzz, just as they were chatting, a light suddenly flashed in front of the town. In the next moment, several figures appeared in the small town. Jin Jiao, Yin Jiao, and the other Earth Prison overlords walked out of the town and looked at Bufong with complicated expressions. "First of all, congratulations on arriving at the town of Acheron. Now, we will examine the jade plates. Goddess City at the summit of God Vanishing Mountain. The white-robed ice saint sat cross-legged on a big rock, holding an ice cream in her hand and eating it. Suddenly, her eyes narrowed as if she was looking through a long river. The senseless lotus has been picked. Has that man escaped? Forget it. It's been so many years, and the senseless lotus means nothing to me. I'll give up." Ice Saint pondered for a while, then continued to eat her ice cream. In the cave of the fallen gods, the gate opened. A skeleton clad in golden armor slowly walked out of it. "The senseless lotus has been born. We must bring back such a divine item." In the Black Temple, a forbidden land of Earth Prison, a figure wrapped in a black robe slowly walked out of the pitch-black majestic palace. "Bring back the senseless lotus. That's the hope of our Black Temple." A hoarse voice could be heard from the Black Palace. For a moment, the whole Earth Prison was in turmoil. Chapter 1278. Now, take out your jade plates. If you want to enter Acheron town, you must have the black and white jade plates, Jin Jiao said, standing in front of the entrance of Acheron town. Jin Jiao's burly body stood in front of the Yellow Spring town's entrance, glancing at Bufong and the others. In fact, there weren't many people left. Looking at the 5 people present, Jin Jiao couldn't help but fall silent. The Wingman Valley was wiped out. The Abyss was wiped out. The West Little Buddhism realm was almost wiped out. The Earth Prison team was almost wiped out at the last moment. Although he knew the semifinals would be cruel, he didn't expect it to be this cruel. Can you wait a little longer? Bu Fong asked Jin Jiao, as if he had thought of something. Jin Jiao paused. Fa Wu and the others also looked at him in confusion. Suddenly, everyone seemed to sense something, and they all looked up into the distance. There, in the surging Acheron River, a wooden boat was sailing unsteadily toward them. Then, from the simple and crude wooden boat, 4 figures actually climbed out with great difficulty. Oh, all the people present froze. Not only them, but even the people watching through the light screen sucked in a cold breath. They were no strangers to the group of people who had climbed out of the wooden boat. They were the other contestants of the Heaven Chief realm. They were Zhu Yan, Imo Yin, Fang Yu, and Xianyuan Xiaohui. These 4 little fellows, who were only 6-star true immortals, had broken through the dense forest and crossed the Acheron River. They were still alive? Well, they're here. When Bu Fong saw them, the corners of his mouth twitched slightly as he said in a soft voice. Then, with a thought, he tore the void apart. The void was torn apart. Bu Fong reached into it, grabbed 2 jade plates, 1 black and 1 white, and threw them out casually. The 2 jade plates flew out and fell into Jin Jiao's hand. Good. The black and white jade plates and the Heaven Chief realm will advance. Jin Jiao scanned the 2 jade plates with his divine sense, and his face suddenly became serious. His voice resounded throughout the small town. In the distance, Zhu Yin and the others walked over with difficulty. Each of them was limping and looked quite miserable. His body was full of scars, and he looked miserable. Fang Yu had lost an arm. However, their auras had become much stronger. Zhu Yin and Xianyuan Xiaohui also made great breakthroughs. Both of them reached the 9-star true immortal realm. This slightly surprised Bu Fong. Evidently, they had obtained quite a few fortuitous encounters along the way. From the looks of it, they were a lot more confident. Although it had been dangerous along the way, it had been accompanied by opportunities. To be able to obtain this opportunity, their efforts were worth it. The injuries they had suffered were not even worth mentioning. With a thought, Fa Wu also took out the black and white jade plates. With Fa Wu's strength, it was not surprising that he had obtained the jade plate. Hell's experts handed over their jade plates as well. It just so happened that the remaining 3 teams would advance to the next round, and there would be less difficulty in choosing. Jin Jiao nodded and glanced at the crowd with a somewhat oppressive look. Congratulations on passing the semifinals and advancing to the finals of the team competition. The finals will be held in Nether Prison, but before that, you must survive the individual competition. Jin Jiao said. His voice was somewhat deep in thought. There will be Nether Prison geniuses participating in the individual competition. I hope you can survive the Nether Prison geniuses. When he had finished speaking, Jin Jiao turned sideways. The 2 experts from the Earth Prison pondered for a while, then shot into it. Fa Wu and Bu Fong exchanged a few words with a smile and also entered Acheron town. Zhu Yin and the others came to Bu Fong's side, and their eyes looked much more confident. Come, let's enter Acheron town, Bu Fong said. The others nodded. Then, the 5 of them slowly stepped into Acheron town. On the light screen, everyone was silent. They found that the Heaven Chief's team was the only team that had all 5 of its members survive the semifinals. This was simply inconceivable. The Heaven Chief realm was very lucky to have a genius like Bu Fong. Acheron town, it used to be desolate. But now, because of the competition, it had become lively all of a sudden. Moreover, there was a teleportation array in the town, which was prepared for the Nether Prison experts. Bu Fong and the others entered Acheron town. An inn had been built in the town, which was specially prepared for the contestants. Bu Fong and the others followed the route and came to the inn that belonged to them. Zhu Yin and the others only said a few words to Bu Fong, then went into their rooms to recover from their injuries and summarize their experience. Bu Fong was a little tired. He lay on the bed, and his whole body suddenly relaxed. The pressure from the experts in the Bronze Palace made his divine will faintly feel like collapsing. The strength of the opponents was absolutely formidable. Moreover, Bufang had a feeling that he would meet them again in the future. At that time, he would certainly meet them again. Lying on the bed, Bufang didn't think about the dish this time. Instead, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. He wanted to have a good rest. Earth Prison became turbulent because of the senseless lotus being picked. The forbidden lands of Earth Prison had always been under the attention of many forbidden lands. Now, experts from the Black Temple and the Cave of the Fallen Gods had come out of Earth Prison, which naturally attracted the attention of many powers. Not only Earth Prison, but also Nether Prison. They were all concerned about the experts from the Forbidden Lands, so they naturally became restless. After learning about it, many people learned that the senseless lotus had been obtained. This news also caused an uproar among the crowd. Many powers in Earth Prison also sent experts to compete for the senseless lotus, just like the Forbidden Lands. They had to fight for the senseless lotus so that it didn't fall into the hands of the experts from the Forbidden Lands. For a moment, the whole of Earth Prison was stirred up. Countless experts were on the move. They sped toward the town of Acheron. There seemed to be a surging killing intent rushing toward the town of Acheron. In Earth Prison, boom! A pure and holy beam of light suddenly fell from the sky. The whole ground shook violently. Then, the ground cracked and crumbled. A huge ball of light emerged over the ground. Then, the ball of light slowly shattered, as if it was raining light. The energy of the light ball dispersed, drifting in the surroundings, causing the surrounding vegetation to be enveloped in a holy and pure aura. Hualala! 2 pairs of white wings suddenly spread out and feathers fluttered in the air. His golden hair fluttered in the wind, revealing a handsome face that was filled with warmth and sunshine. He was a holy winged man clad in silver armor. His aura was very terrifying. How dare he kill his lordship's grandson? How reckless! But that boy had the help of his lordship's clone. How could he be killed? It seems that I have to observe first. The man thought for a moment, the corners of his mouth twitching. However, according to the information, the one who killed that boy is just a 1-star little saint. Moreover, it's a little saint who got the senseless lotus. This time, I have to fight for the senseless lotus. I'm so tired. I wanted to have a good vacation. The man rubbed his golden hair, his handsome face showing a trace of helplessness. Then, the 2 pairs of wings on his back flapped. His body instantly turned into a beam of light, zooming away, disappearing into the horizon. The night passed quickly. In the inn, the sound of even breathing could be heard. All of a sudden, Bufang opened his eyes. He gently exhaled, sitting up on the bed. He rubbed his head, his eyes a little drowsy. He walked to the window and opened it. Fresh air blew in, and the sunlight shone through the window, bringing a little warmth. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched. His mind flickered. He entered the heaven and earth farmland. Buzz, as soon as he entered the heaven and earth farmland, Bufang felt the surging heaven and earth spirit energy constantly pouring into his meridians like a surging flood. This feeling made him extremely astonished. How could the heaven and earth spirit energy in the heaven and earth farmland be so dense? Oh, Owner Boo, you're finally here. As soon as Bufang entered the heaven and earth farmland, a cry of surprise came from a distance. Nyohan-san ran over. Did you do something big outside? Nyohan-san asked, glaring. He was excited, very excited. The changes in the heaven and earth farmland made his heart surge. After all, his current honor and disgrace were linked to the farmland. Bufang didn't say anything. He walked in the heaven and earth farmland. Soon, he came in front of the myriad treasures heaven tree. Looking at the senseless lotus quietly growing on the myriad treasures heaven tree, Bufang's face suddenly became strange. So compatible? Could it be that the myriad treasures heaven tree and the senseless lotus were originally one? And the mysterious existence in the bronze palace said that if this senseless lotus was made into a dish, it could help Bufang avoid a disaster. What was the disaster that mysterious existence in the bronze palace mentioned? Bufang looked at the senseless lotus, his eyes deep. You and the others also came over. Bufong didn't stay in the heaven and earth farmland for too long. Soon, he took you and left the farmland. Today, Bufong didn't plan to cook. He left the inn with you and walked toward the town square. Today was the individual competition. Zhu Yin and the others had been eliminated in the individual competition, so they didn't leave the room. He continued to conclude that this fortuitous encounter was too fulfilling for them. In the square, there weren't many people. More than half of the participants in Earth Prison had fallen in the team competition. Today, there were less than 20 or 30 people in the individual competition. The rest had all fallen in the team competition. The Wandering Soul Realm experts looked at Bufong with horror in their eyes. The experts from the other small worlds looked at Bufong and didn't dare to be presumptuous. Now, in this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path, Bufong was on the verge of becoming the strongest. Of course, there were still Fa Wu and the Earth Prison experts. They might become strong competitors for Bufong. Buzz, in the distance of the arena, there was a huge formation set up there. At this moment, several Earth Prison overlords stood around the array, their eyes deep. The formation flickered with brilliance. Soon, streams of light surged out of it. The array was operating. Someone was about to be teleported over. Many people were silent. They knew that the person being teleported over would be the Nether Prison contestants in the individual competition. Of course, these contestants were only part of the Nether Prison contestants. They were Nether Prison's second-best team. This time, the semi-finals of the individual competition would select 10 people to enter the final. They would step into Nether Prison and compete with the real geniuses of the 9 clans. Everyone was in awe of the Nether Prison geniuses. Bufong took you to look at the array from a distance. Of course, Bufong's mind was not on the array. Because he was too tired yesterday, he fell asleep as soon as he lay in bed and didn't have time to think about how to get the 9-leaf Acheron grass from the great sage Acheron. If Bufong wanted to brew the best wine, 9-leaf Acheron grass was indispensable. So at this moment, Bufong touched his chin and was lost in thought. But as the array swept out, beams of light shot into the sky. Soon, numerous figures floated out from the formation. The experts around the array were in an uproar. Fa Wu put his palms together, his eyes gleaming. He had long wanted to see the Nether Prison geniuses. Rumble, blasts of air spread in all directions. The light from the formation began to disperse. The silhouette of the person in the formation gradually appeared. Everyone stared at the array. 10 figures gradually became clear. An uproar immediately rang through the whole town of Acheron. Everyone knew that Nether Prison had sent 10 people down, and they were the second echelon of Nether Prison. However, in this individual competition, only 10 people could enter Nether Prison for the finals. It was meaningful that Nether Prison sent 10 people. Did they plan to take the top 10 in the semifinals? Boom! The 10 people landed on the ground. Their eyes snapped open. They all crossed their arms over their chests, their faces cold and arrogant as they glanced indifferently at the audience. A terrifying aura suddenly spread out, causing everyone present to feel a wave of pressure. So strong. The pupils of an Earth Prison contestant who survived the team competition constricted. These 10 Nether Prison contestants released their auras without reservation, and even the weakest among them had reached the level of a second revolution little saint. This kind of cultivation base simply crushed everyone present. The contestants of this Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path had a specific age requirement. They had to be the top geniuses of the younger generation in their respective small worlds. They thought the leader of the Wingman Valley was already a top genius. However, compared with the Nether Prison geniuses, he was completely crushed. Oh, it's so lively here. A Nether Prison genius rolled his eyes and said faintly, "What's the point of being lively? They're all trash." Another Nether Prison genius smiled faintly. The leading Nether Prison expert glanced around. The pressure coming from him silenced everyone. This expert's cultivation base was too terrifying. He had reached the level of a 3-revolution little saint. This kind of cultivation base was comparable to that of the experts of the older generation. I heard that one of your contestants got the senseless lotus. You're lucky. Tell me, where is that man? Tell him to come to me and hand over the senseless lotus. I can spare his life." The leading nether prison expert grinned, and a terrible aura exploded out of him. A fierce aura swept across the audience. Swoosh! In an instant, the contestants' faces changed, and they all turned their eyes to Buffon. Many of them even had a playful look on their faces. At this moment, Buffon was stroking his chin and thinking about how to pick the 9-leaf acheron grass from the great sage Acheron. The nether prison expert followed the crowd's gaze and found Buffon. The sound of heavy footsteps rang out. Then, the nether prison expert appeared in front of Buffon. He looked down at Buffon with a playful look on his face. Chapter 1279. The whole place was silent, and everyone held their breath. Everyone looked at Buffon with sympathy in their eyes. No one expected that the first thing the nether prison experts did when they arrived was to find trouble with Buffon. Although these people were only the second echelon of nether prison, for many people present, they were almost invincible existences. Even the weakest among them was a 2-stage professional little saint, which made many people despair. His condescending gaze brought with it a majestic sense of oppression. That oppression brought Buffon back to his senses from his contemplation. There seemed to be a flash of doubt in his eyes as he looked at the tall powerhouse. "What did you just say?" Buffon asked with a straight face. "I said, hand over the senseless lotus, and I'll spare your life." The nether prison expert grinned, revealing his white teeth. That smile made people feel a chill rise from the soles of their feet. "Oh," Buffon said. "Huh?" Buffon's answer stunned everyone, and then many people's faces became strange. What kind of answer was that? What did he mean by "oh"? Many people widened their eyes and stared at him. The nether prison experts were also stunned, and then they all laughed coldly. "Boy, you're tactful." After that, the nether prison expert stretched out his fan-like palm and hovered in front of Buffon. "Hand over the senseless lotus. I've long heard the rumors about it. I came to Earth Prison this time to see it, but I didn't expect you to beat me to it. But what's mine will be mine, and what's not mine will still be mine," the nether prison expert said. His eyes were full of pressure as he stared at Buffon. A terrible aura was released from his body, and everyone present felt their hearts tremble. The people of nether prison were really overbearing. It made sense. As the overlord, nether prison looked down on people from other small worlds. It was normal for them to be overbearing. However, everyone couldn't help but feel indignant in their hearts. The senseless lotus. I can't take it out. Buffon thought for a while and said seriously. He was telling the truth because the senseless lotus seemed to have taken root on the treasure heaven tree and could not be picked at all. Buffon did not want to pick it either. Therefore, when Buffon said that he couldn't take it out, he wasn't bluffing. However, the nether prison experts did not think so. You can't take it out? Did you eat it? The nether prison expert narrowed his eyes, and there seemed to be lightning bursting in them. Then spit it out. Boom! The nether prison expert's aura suddenly changed, becoming boundlessly domineering. The palm that was originally hovering in front of Buffon suddenly slapped toward Buffon's head, as if it wanted to smash Buffon's head. Hwah! This scene caused everyone's eyes to shrink involuntarily as they sucked in a breath of cold air. This nether prison expert was too overbearing. He actually attacked at the slightest disagreement. That backhanded palm seemed to have turned into a sharp long sword, and a terrifying sword aura burst forth from it. It was as if he wanted to kill Buffon in an instant. He's an expert from the Sword Demon clan, which ranks 5th among the 9 clans in Nether Prison. Someone recognized the man at once when he saw the Nether Prison expert's attack. This method was too representative. Terrible sword energy burst forth, and the palm seemed to have turned into a divine sword that could cut through iron as if it were mud, slashing toward Buffon's head as if he wanted to cut Buffon in half. Fa Wu, who was standing not far from Buffon, narrowed his eyes. Then he put his palms together and chanted the name of Buddha. His aura suddenly burst forth. However, As soon as his aura burst forth, it stopped. When he saw that Bufang was unmoved by the palm, his heart skipped a beat. Die. You're just like an ant. That nether prison expert laughed maniacally as his sword palm swept out. The sharp sword energy seemed as though it was going to cut the ground apart. The other nether prison experts behind him also sneered at this moment. It was as if they were watching a good show. They're trying to show off their strength. The moment they arrived, they came looking for someone to take the lead, just to dampen our morale. They're too overbearing, but they have the capital to be so overbearing. The surrounding people all revealed a helpless look. They simply had no other way. What could they do in the face of this overbearing nether prison expert? Buzz, the air was so oppressive that it let out a whine. The velvet rope that tied Bufang's hair suddenly broke at this moment. The palm kept approaching, and it was getting closer and closer. As it got closer and closer to Bufang's face, the terrible sword energy seemed to cut the skin on Bufang's face. 2 inches, 1 inch, half an inch. Bufang was unmoved, his face expressionless. The nether prison expert grinned hideously. Die. The palm was finally about to land on Bufang's head. If this palm landed, Bufang's entire head would probably explode. In the eyes of the nether prison expert, Bufang's cultivation base was just a first revolution little saint. In his eyes, this kind of cultivation base was no different from an ant. Suddenly, the nether prison expert's wild laughter came to an abrupt halt. The laughter around them also stopped. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. A rainbow-colored dumpling suddenly appeared in front of the Sword Fiend clan expert, who had struck out with his palm. In the next instant, Bufang stretched out a finger and poked the dumpling. With a bang, the dumpling exploded. A rainbow-colored light surged, enveloping the nether prison expert. What is this? The other nether prison experts were shocked. One of them even narrowed his eyes, revealing a somewhat solemn look. What is that? I think I saw a dumpling just now. An expert with magma surging under his skin looked at an expert wrapped in a chef's robe and asked, I don't know. The expert shook his head. Aren't you from the Nether Chef clan? Aren't you the best at cooking? How could you not recognize this dumpling? The expert with magma surging under his skin sucked in a cold breath. F.A. Wu's eyes lit up instantly. Sure enough, Owner Boo is not the kind of person who will easily suffer a loss. Owner Boo is going to fight back. What is this? The experts of the Sword Demon clan roared in horror. However, as soon as he roared, he was horrified to find that he could not move his body, and he could not even roll his eyes. His palm, which he had thrust out, froze in midair. I told you I can't take out the senseless lotus. Why won't you listen? Bufang said faintly. The next moment, he flipped his hand, and a black wok appeared in Bufang's hand. Then, he waved the black wok fiercely. Boom! The wok smashed viciously into the immobilized Sword Demon clan expert's face. Everyone was stunned and sucked in a cold breath. The Sword Demon clan expert's eyes widened. He flew backward, blood gushing out of his mouth and nose. His body was about to be sent flying. However, a hand grabbed onto his lapel and pulled him back. The black wok grew larger in his eyes once again. Bam! 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 The black wok was swung as if it were light. Every time it struck out, it hit the expert's face accurately. Boom! A loud noise rang out. The last blow was thrown out. The expert from the Sword Demon clan was dumbfounded. His entire face swelled up. Blood gushed out of his mouth and nose. I can't believe I was struck dumb by a wok. Everyone was dumbfounded. They didn't even know what to say. Then, the experts from the other small worlds couldn't help but burst into laughter. The laughter was like a taunt drilling into the nether prison experts' ears. It made their faces turn red and blue. At this moment, the nether prison experts' honor and disgrace were one. So, when one of them was insulted, they couldn't sit still. Bufang carried a black wok. His black hair fluttered, and his striped red and white vermilion robe fluttered. His face was indifferent as he looked at everyone present. That look, it startled a group of people who wanted to make a move. Boom! A loud noise rang out. A burly figure suddenly landed in front of Bufang, exuding a powerful aura. Jean Jiao stared at the nether prison experts with oppressive eyes. What? Do you want to cause trouble? Jean Jiao raised his hand, grabbing the handle of the corpse ghost soul sealing fan on his back, coldly glancing at the crowd. The nether prison experts froze instantly. The Sword Demon Clan's expert also got up from the ground, glaring at Bu Fong. Enough! Suddenly, an indifferent voice rang out. Then, a figure slowly walked out of the array. A domineering aura spread, suppressing Jean Jiao's aura. Leader! The nether prison experts all bowed respectfully to the man. A buzzing sound rang out. That person took a step and appeared in front of the nether prison experts, facing Jean Jiao. This is the nether puppeteer clan's expert of the older generation. He's the leader of the nether prison semi-final team. Someone recognized the expert's identity, sucking in a cold breath. It was a middle-aged man. His eyelids were half open, looking very tired. However, his identity made everyone present revere him. The Nether Puppeteer clan ranked second among the 9 clans of Nether Prison. What's the matter? Let's fight in the arena. What's wrong with making a ruckus? Do you know that you're throwing Nether Prison's face? The middle-aged man said indifferently. Leader Lu Cheng. He started it. The Sword Demon clan's expert seemed a little indignant, opening his mouth to speak. Shut up. The middle-aged man suddenly raised his eyes, glancing at the Sword Demon clan's expert. That expert's heart trembled, and he didn't say another word. I've already said that if there's any grudge, we should settle it in the semi-final. We, the Nether Prison, are the leader of many small worlds, and we should be friendly to our people. Do you understand? We can't let others laugh at us for being too domineering and unreasonable. The middle-aged man said. The Nether Prison contestants instantly stopped talking. Obviously, this middle-aged man's power made them not dare to be presumptuous. Jean Jiao coldly looked at Lu Cheng, who was speaking with confidence and composure, the corner of his mouth twitching disdainfully. Hypocrite! Jean Jiao sneered. All right, today's matter is our Nether Prison's fault. I apologize to this little brother. However, if we meet in the semi-final, we won't be so merciful. Lu Cheng smiled warmly, glancing at Bu Fong. However, what he saw made him slightly dumbfounded. That was because he realized that Bu Fong's eyes were shining as he stared at him. That gaze, it made him feel uncomfortable all over. It was like the look of a predator looking at its prey. I'm not participating in the competition. Why are you looking at me like that? Besides, if I want to kill you, one finger is enough. However, he still felt uncomfortable because Bu Fong was staring at him, making his hair stand on end. Bu Fong, on the other hand, was very excited at this moment. An expert from the Nether Prison's Nether Puppeteer clan. He finally met an expert from the Nether Prison's Nether Puppeteer clan, Xiao Bai. Your hope is here. Soon, Lu Cheng left with the Nether Prison experts. Before the Sword Demon clan's expert turned around, he stared at Bu Fong, his eyes full of killing intent. Of course, Bu Fong ignored him, still staring at Lu Cheng. Zhang Xian, is that boy still staring at me? The corner of Lu Cheng's mouth twitched as he asked the Sword Demon clan's Zhang Xian. Zhang Xian froze for a moment, then nodded. That boy has been staring at Captain. Captain, are you old friends with that boy? Zhang Xian asked with a frown. Old friend my ass. Lu Cheng's face twitched, and his heart became more and more disgusted. He wished he could turn around and slap Bu Fong to death. He's giving me goosebumps. In the semi-final, when you meet that boy, don't show any mercy. Beat him to death. I suspect that kid might have some bad habits. Maybe he's taken fancy to my peerless appearance. Lu Cheng's face twitched. The Nether Prison experts nodded, a little confused. Although they didn't know where Captain got his peerless face, if he said beat him to death, then beat him to death, Lu Cheng took a deep breath and slowly turned his head. In that instant, when she turned her head back, it was as if the flow of time and the vicissitudes of life, his eyes were a little uneasy, and when he met Bu Fong's gaze, his heart trembled. Are you crazy? Lu Cheng finally couldn't help but curse. Only after Lu Cheng and his group disappeared from his line of sight did Bu Fong retract his gaze reluctantly. Bufang rubbed his chin and fell into deep thought again. However, this time, he was not only thinking about how to get the 9-leaf acheron grass, but also how to get the nether puppet's heart from the nether puppet expert. Chapter 1280. Owner Boo, you really dare to hit him. That's an expert from the Nether Prison's Sword Demon Clan. After Lu Cheng and the others were far away, Fa Wu came to Bufang's side and looked at Bufang in admiration. Previously, Zhang Xian's overbearing behavior had made many people feel indignant. His arrogance, which seemed to look down on everyone, made Fa Wu and the others very aggrieved. Originally, he thought that Bufang was going to suffer a calamity. He didn't expect that Bufang would turn the tables and beat Lu Cheng up. Moreover, it was the kind of beating that made Lu Cheng lose his temper. The way he swung the black walk made many people's eyes light up. He was indeed an expert who could pick the senseless lotus. He was really awesome. The Sword Demon Clan ranks 5th among the 9 Nether Prison clans. They are extremely strong and good at using swords. Owner Boo has offended them, so you have to be careful in the semifinals. Fa Wu reminded him in a serious tone. No one dared to underestimate Nether Prison experts. Even if they were from the 2nd echelon, they could still beat everyone present. Zhang Xian hasn't drawn his sword yet, Fa Wu said. Fa Wu knew that Bufang had killed the captain of the Wingman Valley, a 2nd Revolution little saint, but Zhang Xian was different. He was a Nether Prison expert, and when he was a 2nd Revolution little saint, he was strong enough to kill the Wingman Valley captain. Therefore, although Bufang had killed the Wingman Valley captain, he couldn't be proud of it. Otherwise, he could easily be beaten like a dog when facing Zhang Xian. Fa Wu's words brought Bufang back to his senses. Bufang raised his eyes and glanced at Fa Wu. The Sword Demon Clan? Ranked 5th? Can you tell me about the other rankings? Bufang asked. He really didn't know much about the 9 Nether Prison clans. However, among the 9 clans he knew, there was the Sword Demon Clan, which he had met in God Vanishing Mountain. There were also the Nether Chef Clan, the Shadow Demon Clan, and the Horned Beast Clan. The leg of lamb belonging to the great sage of the Horned Beast had been roasted by Bufang. Of course, he also learned about the Nether Puppeteer bloodline from the system. As for the rest, Bufang didn't know. Fa Wu glanced at Bufang and opened his mouth, as if he didn't expect that Bufang didn't even know such common sense. The 9 clans of Nether Prison hold a ranking competition every 3 years, which is actually the Nether Prison Tournament of the Great Path. They are ranked according to their ranking in the tournament. Right now, the Fire Yaos are ranked 9th. Although they are ranked 9th, their strength is incomparably formidable. Their bodies contain unparalleled nether flames. Their might is boundless and their strength is formidable. Ranked 8th is the Horned Beast bloodline. This bloodline is mainly formed from ferocious beasts. They possess powerful, ferocious beast inheritances and are equally powerful. Next are the Shadow Demon Clan, the Dark Nether Chef Clan, the Sword Demon Clan, the Beast Tamer Clan, the Tyrant Clan, the Nether Puppeteer Clan, and the Mysterious D-Ting Clan, which ranks 1st. Fa Wu explained to Bufang. It was the first time that Bufang had learned the composition of the 9 clans of Nether Prison so systematically. The Beast Tamer Clan, the Tyrant Clan, and the D-Ting Clan? There seemed to be some doubt in Bufang's eyes. They're all very strong. The Beast Tamer Clan can control all beasts, and the Tyrant Clan has invincible fleshly bodies. Even the Vajra realm is a weak chicken in the eyes of the Tyrant Clan. As for the D-Ting Clan, it is too mysterious. It is the strongest clan in Nether Prison. Legend has it that there are only a few members of the D-Ting Clan, but each of them possesses heaven-defying talent. Fa Wu took a deep breath, his face extremely solemn. This time, there are no contestants from the top 4 clans in the 2nd echelon, which gives us a chance. Bufang nodded, not fully understanding. The relationship between the 9 clans of Nether Prison was really somewhat complicated. Well, although Nether Prison is strong, you don't need to belittle yourselves. Just do your best, and you may not lose to them. Jin Jiao said. His eyes swept across all the contestants as he said this. The crowd nodded, but their morale was obviously not very high. "Let's go to the center of the square," Jean Jiao said. Jean Jiao said, giving everyone a deep look. Then he turned around. The group of people followed him and soon came to the center of the square. There, the 10 contestants of Nether Prison were already standing. They seemed to have seen the contestants from the other small worlds, and their eyes were filled with arrogance. Some even raised their hands and slid them across their necks, smiling contemptuously. Their attitudes made the faces of the contestants from the other small worlds turn red. They were too arrogant. Through the light screen, many people felt aggrieved when they saw this scene. However, they were helpless. After all, Nether Prison had the capital to be arrogant. When the semifinals began, they would soon understand how big the gap between them and the Nether Prison experts was. Zhang Xian of the Sword Demon Clan stared coldly at Bu Fong. However, Bu Fong ignored him, craned his neck, and searched among the Nether Prison experts. Finally, his eyes fell on Lu Cheng. The scene made the corner of Zhang Xian's mouth twitch violently. Is what Lu Cheng said true? Does this boy really have some strange hobbies? Because this was Earth Prison's home ground, the rules were announced by an Earth Prison expert. Standing in the center of the square, Jean Jiao glanced across the crowd and rested his eyes on the crowd. He took a deep breath and slowly said, "The contestants from Nether Prison have arrived. Now, I'll announce the rules of the semi-finals of the individual competition. This time, the semi-finals of the individual competition will not be held in a single arena. The venue will be outside Acheron Town. The competition will be cruel, so listen carefully. Due to the deaths of experts who qualified for the individual competition in the previous team competition, the number of people who died will be replaced by those ranked lower, making up a total of 50 people. There are 10 jade plates hidden around Yellow Springs Town. Each jade plate has a number drawn on it from 1 to 10. The number on the jade plate is your ranking in the semifinals. If you want a better ranking, try your best to fight for the jade plate corresponding to your ranking. Each person can only have one jade plate. The competition will last for 1 day. After 1 day, a bell will ring to signal the end of the competition. Once the competition is over, the jade plate you have will represent your ranking. Those who don't have a jade plate will be eliminated," Jean Jiao said, glancing at the crowd. As soon as the rules were announced, an uproar broke out, and everyone's eyes narrowed. This rule was very meaningful, and it was extremely cruel. Let everyone fight for the jade plates. Once there was a fight, there would definitely be killing. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was cruel. After understanding the rules, everyone took a deep breath. The Nether Prison experts narrowed their eyes, and many of them grinned. There was a lot of competition between them. Our Nether Prison contestants can join forces first and snatch all the jade plates. Then, we can compete for the ranking, Zhang Xian said to the Nether Prison contestants. Everyone burst into laughter. That was the principle. Their words made the faces of the contestants from the other small worlds change dramatically. The Nether Prison experts didn't take them seriously at all. To be honest, this rule was really not in their favor. The corners of Jean Jiao's mouth rose slightly. This rule was not that simple. When the time came, these little fellows would understand. Isn't the individual competition a challenge tournament? The competition will be held around Acheron Town. Bu Fong's eyes lit up, and he suddenly had an idea. Acheron Town was not far from the Acheron Valley. When the time came, he could go there and see if he could get a 9-leaf Acheron grass. Well, the rules have been announced. Now, everyone has 2 hours to rest. After 2 hours, the town gate will open, and the competition will begin. Jean Jiao said. As soon as he finished speaking, the contestants began to adjust their state of mind. In the surrounding small worlds, all of them had light screens projecting images of the matches. When the contestants learned the rules, they all felt a little disappointed. Many people felt that, this time, the semifinals would once again become the stage for the Nether Prison experts. Rumble. In the void, the sound of something breaking through the air rang out. Then a figure tore through the sky, speeding over with a domineering aura. It was a skeleton wearing golden armor, and there were blue, ghostly flames dancing in its eye sockets. On its back were two golden spears. The tips of the spears were extremely sharp, glowing with a cold light. The bearer of the senseless lotus. The skeleton opened its mouth and uttered a clear syllable. The skeleton raised its palm. With a wave of fluctuation, a cluster of blue ghost flames emerged above it. Vaguely, an image emerged in the ghost flames, turning into Bu Fong's face. Bam! The skeleton clenched its fist, crushing the blue flame. With a clanging sound, the golden armor collided, and the skeleton immediately staggered and flew away at high speed. Below, it was the surging, blood-colored Acheron River. Not only the skeleton experts of the Cave of the Fallen Gods, but also the experts of the Black Temple and many Earth prison forces were rushing to Acheron Town. It was as if a cluster of dark clouds was rapidly approaching Acheron Town. Swish! A beam of holy light streaked across the void and landed on the ground. His figure was extremely elegant, and his blonde hair fluttered in the wind. Looking at the surging Acheron River, the man twitched his mouth. Filthy. It's really the filthy Acheron River, the winged man said. I should have been on vacation on the island, enjoying beautiful women and fine wine. Why did I come to this filthy place? The man sighed. The wings on his back flapped, and white feathers fell to the ground. Then he grabbed a stone on the ground and threw it. The stone bounced rapidly across the surface of the Acheron River. When the stone sank to the bottom of the river, the winged man valley expert also flapped his wings, soared into the sky, and disappeared. Dong! 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 The sound of bells rang. At the gate of Acheron Town, one expert after another stood at the gate. Every single one of them was fully equipped and ready to set out, and they possessed a magnificent, imposing manner. All of them had adjusted their condition to the limit. The nether prison expert, on the other hand, looked disdainfully at the contestant from the other small worlds and sneered from time to time. Remember, whoever holds the jade plate will advance to the next round, Jin Jiao said, looking at the crowd. Now, the semi-finals of the individual competition of the Netherworld's tournament of the Great Path. It begins now. As soon as his voice faded away, in front of the gate of Acheron Town, one expert after another burst out with a wild and domineering aura. The ground beneath each expert's feet cracked, and gravel flew in all directions. He turned into a shooting star and sped away. Like a ferocious beast, he rushed straight out. Standing at the gate, Bu Fong looked at Lu Cheng, who stood motionless with his hands clasped behind his back. He felt a pang of regret in his heart. I can't believe this guy isn't participating in the competition. That way, I won't be able to get the puppet's heart. With a regretful look in his eyes, Bu Fong gave Lu Cheng a deep look, then strode out of the town with his hands clasped behind his back. Lu Cheng's hair stood on end when he saw Bu Fong's last look. The skin on his face twitched, and he snorted. As soon as Bu Fong walked out of the town, his figure came to a halt. In the distance, the group of nether prison experts stood still and looked playfully at Bu Fong, who walked out of the town. Zhang Xian held a heavy sword in his hand and fixed his eyes on Bu Fong. Then he suddenly raised the heavy sword in his hand and pointed it at Bu Fong, revealing a cruel smile. The next moment, the nether prison experts turned and left. There was no doubt that they were threatening Bu Fong. However, they didn't strike immediately. They planned to find all the jade plates and put them in the hands of the nether prison experts before they began to kill. At that time, the contestants from the other small worlds, including this boy, would become their targets. Of course, Zhang Xian's killing intent toward Bu Fong was already surging in his heart. Just as the competition began, Bu Fong and his companions walked out of Acheron Town. In the sky, streams of light also shot over. They fell like shooting stars toward Bu Fong. One after another, they were filled with greed and killing intent. Chapter 1281. Oh! Lu Cheng stood in front of Acheron Town with his hands clasped behind his back. He narrowed his eyes and looked up into the sky. As he looked at the beams of light shooting across the sky, his eyes suddenly flashed. The forbidden lands of Earth prison, the skeletons of the cave of the fallen gods, and the assassins of the Black Temple. As the rumors say, these forbidden lands can't sit still for the senseless lotus. Lu Cheng murmured. Then, the corner of his mouth twitched slightly. The forbidden lands of Nether Prison have been secretly breached by the lords. Now, these forbidden lands will soon become their targets. After so many years, it's time for the Netherworld to be unified. Once Earth Prison is unified, the surrounding worlds will not be far from submitting. At that time, the Netherworld will turn into a great world and step onto the stage of the great worlds, and Nether Prison will be the center of this new great world. How great would that be? There seemed to be a flash of hope in Lu Cheng's eyes, and a faint smile came over his face. Of course, it was not that easy to breach Earth Prison. After all, there was a reason why the Netherworld had not managed to do so for so many years. How many jade plates have we found? Zhang Xian grabbed the jade plate in his hand, which had the number 5 written on it. He frowned. He did not like the number 5 very much. The 6th one, Liu Yang, the Nether Chef clan expert, said, looking at Zhang Xian. It seems to be a little slower than expected. If this goes on, it's very likely that the other jade plates will be taken by those trash. Zhang Xian put the jade plate away with a solemn look in his eyes. Then let's kill them all, said the Fire Demon clan expert, grinning as if there was lava bubbling under his skin. He even spat out a ball of flame from his mouth. Did we find the jade plate for the first place? Zhang Xian asked. Of all the people present, Zhang Xian was the strongest, so he was naturally the leader. Although they would all compete with each other later, they were now in the same camp. There were a total of 10 jade plates, but only 6 had been collected so far. The efficiency was far beyond Zhang Xian and the others' expectations. The main reason was that these jade plates were placed in very strange places. Some were even on cliffs, and some were even in spirit beast nests. All of these increased the difficulty of obtaining them. Buzz in the sky, a ray of light dissipated again. This meant that the last jade plate had been obtained by someone else. The Nether Prison Camp had obtained 6 jade plates, and the remaining 4 were taken by experts from other small worlds. Zhang Xian stood up and smoothed out the creases in his clothes. He looked into the distance indifferently. Very good. It seems like our massacre will have to be brought forward, Zhang Xian said. His voice was filled with dense killing intent. When the Nether Prison experts heard that, they all screamed excitedly. The fire demons were spurting flames all over their bodies, making them scorching hot and bright. It's finally time for the massacre. I've long been annoyed by those ants from the other small worlds. Roar the experts of the Fire Demon clan. Boom, boom, boom. A rumbling sound rang out. The next moment, the 10 Nether Prison experts all turned into streams of light and sped away. Bufong put his hands behind his back. He held a jade plate in his hand. However, on his shoulder, Little Hu rolled his cute eyes and held a jade plate in his little paw. Each person could only get 1 jade plate. Bufong couldn't hold 2 at the same time. However, he could let Little Hu hold the other plate, so that each person could get 1 plate. This was what Bufong had discovered on a whim. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched slightly. He glanced at the dense forest behind him, then continued forward with Little Hu. Soon, they were in the dense forest. Following the route in his memory, he flew toward a certain location. The rule of the semifinals was exactly what he wanted. He wanted to get the 9-leaf acheron grass. If he went in carelessly, it might be really difficult for him to get it. However, if he had the help of others, he might have a chance to get it. With a swoosh, Bufong rushed out of the forest. His field of vision suddenly became empty. In the distance, there was an intersection of a huge valley. At the intersection, there were many large rocks standing there. Among the rocks, Bufong saw 2 familiar figures, stone, statue, ghost kings. We meet again. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched. He mumbled softly. The stone statue ghost king. It was the great sage Acheron's pet. It was responsible for guarding the Acheron grass, as well as the existence at the intersection of the valley. It was very strong. Back then, Bufang didn't fight the stone statue Ghost King head-on. Instead, he used a clever method to barge in. Hence, he wasn't too clear about the stone statue Ghost King's strength. However, since it could be made by the great sage Acheron to guard the entrance, its strength was certainly not weak. Moreover, in the valley, there was an extremely powerful torch dragon. That torch dragon had the true divine dragon's bloodline, and its strength was extremely formidable. Back then, only the Lord Go could suppress it. When Hades' era encountered the torch dragon, he could only turn around and run. However, back then, Hades' era's strength wasn't too strong. Hence, Bufang wasn't very clear about the torch dragon's cultivation base. Swish, a gust of wind blew over. In that valley, strands of Acheron grass swayed, stirring up thick essence energy. Bufang's eyes shone as he watched. The Acheron grass was divided into 9 leaves. With each additional leaf, the Acheron grass's grade would increase by 1 level. The 6-leaf Acheron grass was very difficult to grow artificially. As for the top-grade Acheron grass, the 9-leaf Acheron grass, it was a heavenly treasure that was nourished by heaven and earth. Basically, it couldn't be cultivated artificially. Hence, it was treasured by the great sage Acheron. And this time, Bufang's target was the 9-leaf Acheron grass. If he wanted to brew the peerless wine, he had to use the 9-leaf Acheron grass. He already had the 9-petal flower of helplessness. Now, with the addition of the 9-leaf Acheron grass, the Acheron wine of helplessness brewed would definitely be incomparably delicious. Thinking of this, Bufang couldn't help but salivate, licking his lips. However, the stone statue Ghost King was guarding the entrance. Then I can only use the old method. The corners of Bufang's mouth twitched, and his heart moved. Last time, Bufang cooked the stone-walk fish, which caused the stone statue Ghost Kings to fight each other. In the end, they shattered each other. This time, Bufang planned to use the same trick again. In Bufang's opinion, the stone statue Ghost King should be fooled again. After all, if Bufang's judgment wasn't wrong, this stone statue Ghost King must be a real glutton. Since it was a glutton, it would be easy to deal with it. Little Who stood on Bufang's shoulder, his claws holding the jade plate. His small eyes rolled, and his 2 tails swayed on his butt. Still cooking the stone-walk fish? Bufang muttered to himself. No, what if these 2 stone statue Ghost Kings learn to be smart and don't fall for it? So this time, I'd better choose a new dish. Bufang squinted, rubbing his chin and nodding. Little Who looked at Bufang's appearance, holding the jade plate in his mouth. Then he imitated Bufang, using his claws to rub his chin and nod. Bufang was amused, rubbing Little Who's head. His mind flickered. He entered the heaven and earth farmland. He found Johan-san and asked for a piece of good, fat beef. Shortly after, the heaven and earth farmland's indignant mooing echoed. Johan-san happily ran from a distance with a piece of beef, handing it to Bufang. Bufang looked at Johan-san with a strange look. However, Bufang didn't know much about it. It was Johansen's private business, and he didn't need to care. Thus, Bufang left the heaven and earth farmland. Little Who held the jade plate in his mouth. With a grunt, he jumped far away, his big eyes gazing at Bufang. Bufang's mind flickered. The white tiger heaven stove emerged, pounding on the ground. The dragon bone kitchen knife and the black turtle constellation wok were ready. Ingredients were taken out by Bufang, placed on the stove, and washed with Heavenly Alps spirit spring water. This time, there weren't many ingredients. However, they were all special. They weren't ordinary ingredients. In this dish, purple garlic was a must, along with Sun Mother ginger. Next was the fat beef and the green and red exploding flame pepper. This exploding flame pepper was the result of Johansen's hybridization. Besides these, there was another ingredient. It was a kind of mushroom. In Bufang's eyes, this kind of mushroom was very similar to the enoki mushroom in his previous life. However, compared to the enoki mushroom, this mushroom's spirit energy was incomparably majestic, and its quality wasn't low. Bufong continued to call it the enoki mushroom. Opening his mouth, a white flame instantly drilled out, drilling under the white tiger heaven stove. The scorching heat instantly burst out, causing the entire white tiger heaven stove to emit a scorching aura. The black turtle constellation, Wak, contained the spring of life, which quickly boiled. Bufong placed the enoki mushroom inside, boiling it until it was cooked. Then, he blanched it, placing it in a blue and white porcelain bowl. Sizzle. Adding oil, he waited until the oil temperature rose. Then, Bufong added the diced purple garlic and sun mother ginger into the wok. He began to stir-fry. Sizzle. The sound of stir-frying resounded unceasingly. A thick aroma instantly spread, drilling into the nostrils. Little Hu squinted in the distance, holding a jade plate in his mouth. His nostrils couldn't help but twitch. The smell of the purple garlic was really fragrant. After stir-frying, Bufong took out a small jar made of blue and white porcelain. The jar wasn't big, and its mouth was tightly stuffed. Finally, it's useful. Bufong looked at the jar, his eyes flashing with excitement. This is the yellow chili sauce I made in my spare time in the Heaven and Earth farmland. It's made from kind of yellow chili that grows in the farmland. Although the taste isn't as good as the abyssal chili sauce, it's necessary to make this dish. The corners of Bufong's mouth twitched. This chili sauce was incomparably fragrant and spicy. More importantly, it also had a sour taste. This sour taste was the essence of this chili sauce. And this dish, without this essence, it couldn't be used. He scooped out a spoonful of yellow chili sauce and poured it into the wok. Instantly, the sound of hot oil splashing rang out. An even more majestic spicy aroma condensed. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. After adding the yellow chili, Bufong began to stir the wok. He kept stir-frying, creating a fragrant aroma. Thud! In the distance, Foxy's mouth was wide open, and the jade plate she was holding in her mouth fell to the ground. Her saliva flowed freely from her mouth. Buzz, this noise naturally attracted Bufong's attention. Little Hu, hold it in your mouth. Be good. Later, I'll let you taste the deliciousness of this dish. When Bufong saw Little Hu's greedy face, he couldn't help but raise his lips. Little Hu hurried to pick up the jade plate on the ground, nodding his head repeatedly. In the distance, Zhang Xian's sword swept across, and a wandering soul realm expert was immediately cut in half. A strong smell of blood filled the air. I sensed the aura of a jade plate. It suddenly emerged in that direction. The fire demon's eyes narrowed as he looked in the direction where Bufong was cooking. Zhang Xian grabbed a jade plate from the corpse and shook it. The 7th jade plate. There are 3 left, and one of them is the first one. Zhang Xian said, That bald donkey has 1 jade plate. I guess the other 2 should be with that stinky chef from the Heaven Chief realm. A man with 3 black horns on his head said coldly. Let's go. It's time to kill this stinky chef. Let's go. It's time to kill this reckless, stinky chef, Zhang Xian said coldly, shouldering his heavy sword. The next moment, one nether prison expert after another sped toward the spot where he had just appeared. Swish! The sauce was stir-fried, and a strong aroma filled the air. Although this yellow chili was not as pure as the abyssal chili sauce, it was made by Bufong himself, and it tasted good. It was very suitable as a seasoning for specific dishes. Although the abyssal chili sauce was good, it had its limitations. Some dishes couldn't use it. For example, if Bufong used the abyssal chili sauce in the dish he was cooking this time, the taste would definitely not be as good as the yellow chili sauce. He poured the spring of life into the wok. It washed away the sauce. The orange-yellow soup was rolling and boiling. He added a crystal fruit of life. When the crystal fruit entered the wok, it melted instantly, and a majestic spirit essence spread out in the wok. He covered the wok and let the soup boil. Bufong took the fat beef. The beef was perfect, and the lines on it were like exquisite works of art. Bufong couldn't help but grin when he saw it. He flipped the dragon bone kitchen knife. Then, the knife seemed to cut down from the sky. It was a knife technique, cutting a mortal into pieces. Instantly, the The fat beef was cut into pieces. After cutting the fat beef, Bufang's mind flickered. He raised his head, looking into the distance. There, a terrifying, murderous aura was sweeping over. Bufang's eyes couldn't help but narrow. As expected, the aura that appeared for a brief moment was still discovered. Anyway, it's good that you're here. I was worried that you wouldn't come. Bufang exhaled. Then, he put the cut beef into the wok. Chapter 1282. He seemed to be wondering what that thing was. Roar. That punch smashed into the bridge of his nose. There was a thin figure standing there, and on the back of the figure, there was a weak little fox lying on it. It was as if a bottle of flavors had been knocked over. Sourness, sweetness, bitterness, and spiciness flooded his heart at the same time. He grabbed the jade plate, which had a number written on it. 9. A terrifying gust of wind suddenly burst out. That guy in the bronze palace was really despicable. He didn't even know that he shouldn't hit someone in the face. He poured thin slices of fat beef into the wok. The little huli looked at the sour and fat beef. His mouth opened again, drool flowing unceasingly. The great sage Acheron stopped rubbing his face. Huh! An expert from the nether prison shouted excitedly. Bufang said softly. Rubble fell all over the ground. In the valley, he took out a huge blue and white porcelain bowl. Then he took out a jar. He rubbed the little fellow. However, no matter how sour it was, the little fellow kept chewing, swallowing it in one gulp. It couldn't wait to cry out. There was such a thing? The sour and spicy taste exploded. Pieces of fat beef floated on the surface of the soup. The beef was tender and exquisite, and steam constantly rose from meat. Zhang Xian's mind flickered. Bufang looked at the little huli's appearance, and the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. A sour taste that made his whole body shiver instantly spread out from his mouth. Terrifying rumbling sounds echoed unceasingly. Terrifying waves of energy swept out, and the ground seemed to explode. Zhang Xian froze. It caused the heat on the soup to dissipate. Do it, but there was a loud bang. The gargoyle kings looked at each other. The enoki mushroom added to the dish's beauty, making it even more tempting. Or did he think that he was safe after getting the jade plate? So he cooked to celebrate? That kind of deep familiarity. It melted into the soup. It was the problem of uneven distribution, and it was also the problem of you eating an extra piece of my meat. He added a few drops of brown fruit vinegar, which had a sour taste. Perfect. The joy they shared now. Who knew if they would still be able to share it later? The nether prison experts looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Then, Bufang's mental force surged. Zhang Xian pondered. As a genius of the nether chef clan, cooking was his forte, but he couldn't trigger 8 lightning punishments even he couldn't. Then, the true energy under his feet burst forth, and his figure instantly turned into a stream of light, shooting forward at high speed, leaving behind a trail of afterimages. A faint sour smell immediately spread out, causing Bufang's brows to involuntarily twitch. Plop! Then he turned off the fire. In the next moment, his eyes shone brightly. It seemed even more delicious. Because it was stained with the color of the soup, it had a bright yellow luster and looked extremely delicious. The jade plate was tossed up, and the fox swung its tail, slamming it onto the jade plate. Hung pong! The nether prison experts in the distance were dumbfounded. At that moment, he seemed to hear the sound of his nose breaking. Then his eyes seemed to shoot fire. The fat beef entered his mouth. He scooped out the dish from the black turtle constellation wok and poured it into a blue and white porcelain bowl. Thick steam immediately rose. The 2 stone statue ghost kings stood up at the same time, roaring at each other. Then, the 2 stone statue ghost kings squatted in front of the blue and white porcelain bowl, looking at each other. That's right. This time, Bufang wanted to cook this dish. There was a messy feeling in the wind. Because of the yellow chili sauce, the soup had a bright yellow luster. Bufang took a deep breath. The nether prison experts were dumbstruck. His figure flew backward, smashed in the distance, and rolled several times. Swish! Because the smell of the yellow chili was gushing over, The spicy fragrance, coupled with the faint sour taste, stimulated his taste buds, causing his mouth to salivate uncontrollably. It was simply impossible to suppress. He raised his hand, pointing at Zhang Xian's body. Bufang also used his body to resist the lightning bolts. He continued to cook for a while. It's that blind spirit beast again, crossing the tribulation in this great sage's territory. Found it. The jade plate is over there. In the valley, Bufang gently blew at it. Rubbing his face, the great sage Acheron said, a little depressed, "Evil creature, die for me." Holding the 9-leaf Acheron grass between his fingers, the great sage Acheron took a step and came to the entrance of the valley. Is it the chef from the Heaven Chief realm who is cooking? Gulp, gulp. The fat beef with sour soup steadily landed between the 2 stone statue ghost kings, 2 evil creatures. After shivering, he felt a comfortable feeling that made him salivate. Liu Yang of the Nether Chef clan was very familiar with this lightning punishment. What kind of idiots did he raise? Zhang Xian's nose suffered again. All right, don't worry. With his hands clasped behind his back, Bufang looked at Zhang Xian in the distance and twitched the corner of his mouth. The nether prison experts immediately came out of it. Boom! After blowing on it, Bufang handed the fat beef to Little Hu. On Zhang Xian's body, a terrible sword intense surged, and his whole body seemed to turn into a beam of sword light. As the fragrant Acheron helplessness wine entered the wok, a rich aroma filled the air, making the taste of the soup even richer. Strands of it were placed on the wok, presenting a beautiful scene. However, the void was torn apart. Young Bufang picked up a blue and white porcelain spoon and scooped up a spoonful of soup. Then he took out a pair of chopsticks and picked up a piece of fat beef. This dish would definitely be delicious. Bufang couldn't help but swallow his saliva during the cooking process. The boiling soup in the wok gradually fell silent. Rustling noises came from the trees in the distance. I'll take one, and you take another. At this moment, it was completely silent. The sharp-eyed Bufang even saw a drop of tear at the corner of Little Hu's eye. Her small mouth began to move. The boiling gravy instantly swallowed up the fat beef. Zhang Xian said coldly, "Sure enough, the sour taste of the chili sauce is a little lacking. Let's go and see what that kid is up to." Slurp. Squeak. This was also the fruit vinegar brewed by Bufang. It tasted extremely sour. After dropping it into the boiling wok, it disappeared without a trace. Was it crying because of the sourness? He placed the blanched enoki mushroom inside. The 2 stone statue ghost kings were smashed together. Little Hu, throw the jade plate between those 2 big guys. The 2 stone statue ghost kings immediately shared the food happily. Zhang Xian's mind suddenly flickered. In the distance, the exclamations of the nether prison experts rang out. Great sage Acheron laid on the bed, taking out a 9-leaf Acheron grass, fiddling with it. So familiar. That feeling made Bufang's eyes brighten. Great sage Acheron was lying on the bed, rubbing his swollen face. Suddenly, he narrowed his eyes, looking at the valley in the distance. Of course, Bufang couldn't help but pick up a piece of beef and put it in his mouth. Zhang Xian muttered, "This taste, this feeling." The rolling steam seemed to turn into a demonic bull that kept mooing. The nether prison experts landed, looking at the slowly dispersing lightning punishment in the sky, their faces solemn. Smelling this aroma, his mouth couldn't help but salivate. Soon, the meaty aroma spread, attacking Bufang's mouth and nose. This little fellow, this aroma was similar to the stonewalk fish, but different. Not long after, a lot of foam appeared on the surface of the soup. Suddenly, it crossed the area under the stone statue Ghost King's jurisdiction, rushing into the valley. Bufang furrowed his brows. He raised his head, looking into the distance. "It's you. See how this father will beat this stone statue Ghost King." The moment he swallowed it, feeling the soft and tender beef flowing down his throat into his stomach, the Little Hu felt his entire body become transparent. His eyes turned red, and his vision blurred. It was as if he saw the setting sun, and a drop of tear was about to fall. The two stone statue ghost kings had actually started a fight. Bu Fong poured the soup from the porcelain spoon into his mouth. A moment later, the two stone statue ghost kings stared at the jade plate. "I'll take one piece, and you take the other." Then, a group of people shot out once again. In their field of vision, Bu Fong watched from a distance. The corners of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. That jade plate was the one they had been looking for. In the distance, the nether prison experts were dumbstruck. "These two retards are King broken again?" Zhang Xian was dumbstruck. Lightning bolts surged. "It's okay. It's just an ordinary dish with lightning punishment." However, this dish doesn't seem ordinary. It has actually reached 8 lightning punishments. That feeling. Awesome. Cooking in such a position. In the distance, Bu Fong's figure had long disappeared. It was an extremely appetizing dish that made people unable to stop eating. Soon, he had carefully selected the best fat of the demonic cow and matched it with the exclusive yellow chili sauce. He had used a unique cooking method and a special secret recipe. Slurp. Roar. The jade plate fell in her claws, and she grabbed it. She scooped another spoonful of soup, blowing away the steam, then poured it into her mouth. Walking to the gravel, she lifted her feet, stomping on it to vent her anger. It was a jade plate ranked at the bottom. Zhang Xian froze, turning his head to look. The two fists enlarged in his eyes once again. The ground shook violently. He took out the Acheron of helplessness wine. Little Hu's big eyes brightened. Then she squeaked. From a distance, she saw Zhang Xian stomping on the stone statue ghost kings on the ground. Then she saw a giant fist made of stone, enlarging in front of her eyes. Bu Fong gently exhaled. Apparently, the sour taste of the beef soup was irritated. Bolts of lightning quickly smashed down. In the sky, why were the two stone statue ghost kings roaring at each other? The leaves rustled. The corners of Bu Fong's mouth twitched. Without a doubt, they chose to ignore the stone statue ghost kings. They looked at the sour stewed beef on the ground, then at the shattered stone statue ghost king. Little Hu's eyes were filled with reluctance. Tears welled up in her eyes as she looked at the blue and white porcelain bowl. The stone statue ghost king reached out its stone fingers, picking up a piece of beef and shoving it into its mouth. Holding the heavy sword, it covered its nose and got up. Then it roared hoarsely, under the control of Bu Fong's mental force. The bowl of beef soup in his hand slowly flew toward the center of the two stone statue ghost kings. If Bu Fong were here, he would find that the power of the two stone statue ghost kings had increased again. Bu Fong rubbed Little Hu's head, ignoring the latter's pitiful eyes, which wanted to be together again. With a muffled thud, Zhang Xian fell on the ground. "Go to hell, you filthy animal." Great Sage Acheron was so angry. Rumble. Hiss. Hiss. The horned beast clan's expert sniffed. All of a sudden, he smelled a thick aroma. His face changed. "Forget it. With this great sage's current image, I can't show up easily. I'll spare that little guy." Frowning, Zhang Xian exhaled. It wasn't the first jade plate. King got tricked. Zhang Xian's eyes focused, and a terrifying murderous aura swept out. After adding the beef soup, it began to boil. Bu Fong looked at Little Hu's impatient face. He couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth, rubbing the latter's head. Crossing the tribulation, it was the same old method, and it was still the same familiar operation. What was going on? Little Hu's eyes narrowed. The fox fur on his body stood on end, shivering unceasingly. Zhang Xian was enraged. The stone statue ghost king's eyes instantly shot out bright light. Little Hu opened his mouth, swallowing the beef soup in one gulp. Bu Fong looked at Little Hu, saying, Zhang Xian crawled up from the ground. His face was covered in blood. When he saw the broken pieces of the stone statue ghost kings on the ground, he burst out laughing. Sour beef soup. He took a deep breath, and a satisfied look appeared on his face. The jade plate turned into a beautiful arc, falling in the middle of the stone statue ghost kings. Bu Fong picked up Little Hu, placing him on his shoulder. After carefully removing the foam, Zhang Xian became even more enraged. Zhang Xian became even more furious. Did that brat think that two stone statue ghost kings could ambush him? The sour smell instantly spread out, causing Bu Feng's entire body to shiver. Zhang Xian's eyes focused, locking on the jade plate not far from the stone statue ghost kings. The falling object made the eyes of the two stone statue ghost kings brighten. The sword energy seemed to be stuck. Then his figure turned into a jet of light, shooting out. In just a blink of an eye, he landed beside the stone statue ghost kings. The two stone statue ghost kings looked at each other, their eyes sharpening. The thunderclap there caught his attention. The result of the fight was the two gargoyle kings were happily eating and didn't notice that someone had entered. All right, you just need to taste it. I'll make more for you next time. Today, this sour beef soup has its uses. Beads of sweat seemed to be seeping out from his nose. Swoosh. Fortunately, this jade plate was made of special materials. It was incomparably sturdy, so it wasn't crushed by the stone statue ghost king stomps. In his spirit sea, his divine sense spread out. Bam! When the stone statue, ghostly kings even lifted its foot and stomped down. Boom! However, before Zhang Xian's sword could slash, the two stone statue ghost kings turned their heads, roaring fiercely. The jade plate in his hand fell to the ground. What's that smell? It smells so good. Chapter 1283. The stone statue ghost king broke again. Great sage Acheron's eyes turned red in an instant. He stared at Zhang Xian, who was stomping on the stone statue ghost king in the distance. A wave of anger was gathering in his heart. Are you having a good time? Great sage Acheron was so angry that he clenched his teeth and said coldly. His voice seemed to come from a ninth heaven, extremely cold like a block of ice that wouldn't melt for 10,000 years. Zhang Xian's back was facing Great Sage Acheron, so he didn't see the Great Sage Acheron's gloomy face. However, he could feel a flame of anger burning behind him. In the distance, the other nether prison experts all widened their eyes, looking at Zhang Xian's back in disbelief. The fire demon even raised his hand and pointed at Zhang Xian's back, his mouth trembling. Zhang Xian, behind you. Did they know Great Sage Acheron? Of course, they had heard of him, but they had never seen him. Before they came to Earth Prison, the elders in their clans had warned them not to provoke experts at the level of the Great Sage. However, they were all a little confused now. Great Sage Acheron didn't conceal his aura at all. His terrifying aura was like a volcano erupting, suppressing everyone and making them tremble. The Great Sage was a top existence even in Nether Prison. Zhang Xian's eyes widened, and blood kept oozing out of his nostrils. He was beaten by the two stone statue ghost kings, and he was still in a daze. He had never thought that the two stone statue ghost kings would break each other. This was simply the heavens helping him. Idiots! How dare you beat me? Who the F*** CK keeps these two idiots here? Retarded things. The anger in Zhang Xian's heart seemed to be completely released at this moment. Then, he heard Great Sage Acheron's voice. Awesome! Awesome! These two beasts dared to beat me up, and now I've trampled them to pieces. Zhang Xian grinned and said in a refreshed manner. He thought it was the fire demon or Lu Yang who had asked this question. But suddenly he thought about it. After thinking about it for a while, he felt that something was wrong. Raising his head, his bruised and swollen face revealed a look of shock. His friend from Nether Prison were standing in the distance, winking at him with eyes full of fear. What was going on? Not a single one of his companions was missing. Then who was the one asking the question? Zhang Xian was shocked. His mind trembled as he gripped the heavy sword in his hand. Then, he slowly turned his head and looked behind him. He saw an abnormally ugly face. On that face, there was a graceful palm print. Does it feel good? Yellow Spring Great Sage asked expressionlessly, looking at Zhang Xian. Gulp. Zhang Xian felt like there was a huge rock stuck in his throat, making it extremely difficult for him to speak. An aura swept over him, making him feel like he couldn't even hold his sword steadily. I raised these two stone statue ghost kings. So, did you just call me a retard? Great Sage Acheron asked again. His aura made Zhang Xian want to kneel. The Great Sage. It was actually the Great Sage. He turned his head to look at the shattered stone statue ghost king on the ground. Then at the blue and white porcelain bowl on the ground, Zhang Xian suddenly understood. He must have been tricked. That damn chef from the Heaven Chief realm. Great Sage. Zhang Xian opened his mouth, wanting to say something. Enough. My heart hurts now. Don't talk. Great Sage Acheron said. A moment later, a slap flew out. This slap contained all the pent-up anger he had accumulated for a long time. It shot down like a bolt of lightning. Zhang Xian's expression changed dramatically. He wanted to block it. However, as soon as he raised his hand, the slap landed on his face. Slap! A crisp sound rang out. Zhang Xian's entire body was sent flying, crashing into a pile of the stone statue Ghost King's stone fragments in the distance. The blue and white porcelain bowl fell to the ground. Great Sage Acheron looked at his hand in disbelief. So, this is how it feels to slap someone. Somehow it feels good. Great Sage Acheron muttered inwardly. Great Sage. Zhang Xian's mouth was swollen, and his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. Grabbing the blue and white porcelain bowl, he shouted at Great Sage Acheron. Great Sage Acheron narrowed his eyes, coldly looking at him. I'll give you 3 sentences. After that, you can accompany my stone statue Ghost Kings. Zhang Xian's mind shook. Great Sage Acheron wanted to kill him. It's not me. It's really not me. They fought each other and broke them. Zhang Xian hurriedly told the truth. Fought each other? The wise Great Sage Acheron. How could I raise those stupid stone statue Ghost Kings? Great Sage Acheron sneered, holding the grass in his hand. Zhang Xian was dumbfounded. You raised those F***king idiots. Don't you know that? Great Sage Acheron. The expert in front of him was indeed Earth Prison's Great Sage Acheron. Great Sage. I'm telling the truth. Your stone statue Ghost Kings fought each other and broke each other because of a dish. Zhang Xian felt wronged. He didn't do anything. He just took 2 punches, but why did he feel like the whole world was destroyed? If you don't believe me, ask them. Zhang Xian hurriedly raised his hand and pointed at his nether prison companions. Great Sage Acheron's face was extremely gloomy. He turned his cold eyes to them. He happened to see the nether prison experts nodding their heads. Crack! The grass in his hand was instantly broken. At that moment, a cold, killing intent swept out, making the nether prison experts want to cry. Then all of them, who were originally nodding their heads, shook their heads. We don't know anything. We didn't see anything. Zhang Xian was petrified, looking at his companions in disbelief. Zhang Xian's throat was dry and choked. Was he F***king tricked by his own people? What else do you have to say? Great Sage Acheron's face was cold. The next moment, he took a step. It was as if heaven and earth were moving. In a flash, he appeared in front of Zhang Xian. How could the Great Sage's stone statue Ghost Kings be stupid enough to fight each other? Are you questioning my taste? Great Sage Acheron's voice grew colder. Zhang Xian looked at Great Sage Acheron's face. His heart was filled with grief and indignation. This guy definitely knew. He definitely knew that his stone statue Ghost Kings had smashed each other. This guy is trying to cover up the fact that I've raised 2 idiots. I refuse to accept this. Zhang Xian's eyes turned red in an instant. A terrible aura suddenly erupted from his body. Buzz! The great sword soared into the sky, and there seemed to be streams of light spreading across it. I'll fight you to the death. As the great sword flew up, Zhang Xian slapped the hilt of the sword and thrust it toward Great Sage Acheron. Today, I'll try the power of the Great Sage. The Sword Demon Clan, we will never give up. Zhang Xian roared. Great Sage Acheron looked at Zhang Xian, who was trying to fight back. The corner of his mouth twitched. Then, he turned his hand and slapped Zhang Xian. When Bufang sensed Acheron Great Sage, he dashed out. He was delighted. his figure sped away. His divine will enveloped his body, preventing great sage Acheron from sensing him. With great sage Acheron's cultivation base, he would be able to detect Bufong in an instant if he wanted to. However, Bufong had covered his body with his divine will, preventing great sage Acheron from sensing him. Soon, he arrived at the valley. The valley was huge. Rumble, rumble. Deafening rumbles echoed unceasingly. In the middle of the valley, the huge blood-colored torch dragon was lying on the ground, breathing heavily from its nose and mouth, causing the ground to tremble. The blood-illuminating dragon. This was great sage Acheron's third pet, and its strength was extremely formidable. Bufong squinted at it. He felt a terrible pressure. Back then, Bufong had felt like an ant when facing this illuminating dragon. But now, Bufong didn't feel that the illuminating dragon was that desperate, but he could still feel that he had no chance of winning against it. Even if the illuminating dragon's cultivation base hadn't reached the great sage level, it wasn't far from the great sage level. That was why Bufong didn't wake the illuminating dragon up. Standing on a mountain wall of the valley, he frowned and glanced around. The blood-illuminating dragon lay in the middle, surrounded by Acheron grass. It was in this valley that Bufong had picked a high-quality one-leaf Acheron grass. And now, Bufong was here again, and he needed to find a 9-leaf Acheron grass. The 9-leaf Acheron grass was extremely precious, and it would take some time to find it. His feet stomped on the ground, and Bufong's figure instantly flew out. It drew an arc in the air and landed lightly on the ground like a falling leaf. He didn't wake up the huge blood-illuminating dragon. Snore. The blood-illuminating dragon lay on the ground, still snoring. The air it breathed was like a hurricane that could destroy everything. On his back, Little had been frightened by the blood-illuminating dragon's aura. He grabbed Bufong's hair and didn't dare to move. His two tails were also clamped under his butt. Bufong glanced at Little Hu, raised his hand, and touched the ladder. His mind flickered. He put the ladder into the heaven and earth farmland, isolating the blood-illuminating dragon's aura from scaring the fox. As for himself, he tiptoed around the area. Of course, there couldn't be only one 9-leaf Acheron grass. The great sage of the Acheron River held one every day. There should be one growing in this valley, too. What Bufong needed to do was to find it. The blood-illuminating dragon was sleeping soundly, and saliva was still dripping from its mouth. Bufong walked slowly in the valley. The environment of the valley wasn't bad. There was a blood-colored pond. That pond seemed to be the source of the Acheron River, and the water of the Acheron constantly flowed from it. It was as if there were ghosts wailing in it. 8-leaf Acheron grass. What a pity it's not enough. Bufong looked at the Acheron grass. His eyes focused, and he sighed. There wasn't a 9-leaf Acheron grass near the source of the Acheron River. Was there only one 9-leaf Acheron grass in the entire valley? Was it the one that the great sage of the Acheron River was holding in his hand? Bufong frowned and fell into deep thought. Suddenly, his eyes turned. It fell on the abdomen of the blood-illuminating dragon. Underneath the mountain-like blood-illuminating dragon, there was a blade of grass swaying in the wind, emitting a surging radiance. The rich essence energy in the grass made Bufong's breath stop. 9-leaf Acheron grass. Finally found it. The nether prison experts were stunned. Zhang Xian was dead. He was slapped to death by the great sage of the Acheron River. They never thought that Zhang Xian would die in such a miserable way. His sword energy and strength were no different from ants in front of the great sage of the Acheron River. So, you're a disciple of the Nether Prison's Sword Demon Clan, but you dare to break my stone statue, Ghost King. Even if the great sage of the Sword Demon Clan is here, I, the great sage, will still beat you. The great sage of the Acheron River raised his palm, glanced at Zhang Xian, who had turned into a pile of dust with his sword, and twitched his mouth. Then he raised his head and turned his eyes to the nether prison experts in the distance. The group of nether prison experts suddenly felt a chill under their feet. "Are you ready to die?" The great sage of the Acheron River said faintly. The hearts of the nether prison experts were filled with fear. Suddenly, in the distance, a long howl suddenly resounded. In the next instant, a beam of light flew over, instantly appearing above the nether prison expert's head. "Great sage of the Acheron River, please calm down." Lu Cheng appeared, his face extremely unsightly. He never thought that the nether prison contestants would be stupid enough to provoke the great sage of the Acheron River. This ruthless man was not weaker than those supreme existences in the Forbidden Lands. "People of the Nether Puppeteer clan, do you think you can stop me?" The great sage of the Acheron River said lightly, holding the grass in his hand. His eyes slightly tilted as he looked at Lu Cheng. Lu Cheng's heart skipped a beat. He was just a 7-revolution little saint. How could he be compared with the great sage of the Acheron River? If the great sage of the Acheron River slapped him, he would probably end up like Zhang Xian. "Great sage, Zhang Xian is dead. You should calm down. These children are from the 9 clans of the Nether Prison. If you kill them, do you want to offend the 9 clans of the Nether Prison?" Lu Cheng said hurriedly. Who dared to offend this ruthless man who had been planting grass at the source of the Acheron River in Earth Prison for tens of thousands of years? "But they broke my stone statue, Ghost King," the great sage of the Acheron River said expressionlessly. "They tempted my pets with dishes." As soon as the great sage of the Acheron River said that, Lu Cheng's face froze. He turned his sharp eyes to Lu Yang. He was the only chef present. Lu Yang was dumbfounded and somewhat sluggish. "What the F***ck did I do? I didn't do anything. It wasn't me," Lu Yang said hurriedly. If he didn't explain, the great sage of the Acheron River might slap him. The great sage seemed to be addicted to slapping people. "It wasn't you? Aren't you from the Nether Chef clan? Who else is here besides you?" Lu Cheng said with a frown. He also wanted to believe that it wasn't Lu Yang. "However, I'm a Nether Chef. My dishes emit nether energy." "Great sage, look carefully at that bowl," Lu Yang said helplessly. "It's immortal energy." "Oh, immortal energy?" Lu Cheng paused. Then he seemed to think of something, and his expression became strange. The great sage of the Acheron River froze as well. All of a sudden, the whole ground shook violently. The violent shaking caused everyone's expression to change drastically. A dragon roar resounded through the sky. A terrible aura filled the air as if to destroy heaven and earth. The great sage of the Acheron River's expression changed abruptly. "Damn it, luring the tiger away from the mountain. Who? How dare you covet my 9-leaf Acheron grass?" Chapter 1284. Bufong thought that the illuminating dragon wouldn't wake up, but that was just his assumption. Although this illuminating dragon liked to sleep, it had woken up. When his hand touched the 9-leaf Acheron grass, it was as if he had been electrocuted. The blood-illuminating dragon opened its eyes wide. It let out a dragon roar. The deafening dragon roar echoed through the sky. A giant dragon claw slapped the ground. The blood-illuminating dragon's mountain-like body rolled. Its body surged, and its head shrank as it stared at Bufong. "Roar!" It opened its mouth, and a stinky breath spurted out. It dashed toward Bufong. Bufong furrowed his brows. His hand moved faster, grabbing the Acheron grass. Swish! The blood-illuminating dragon's horrible tail whipped toward Bufong's head. The void seemed to be about to be whipped into pieces, constantly howling. This blood-illuminating dragon was extremely powerful. Although Bufong had reached the little saint realm, he wasn't sure that he could resist the blood-illuminating dragon's tail. Thus, Bufong moved. He uprooted the 9-leaf Acheron grass. The soil immediately collapsed and scattered. Roar! The blood-illuminating dragon's eyes shrank. Its murderous aura surged. Its tail tore through the air and was about to hit Bufong. Looking at the swinging tail, Bufong grabbed the 9-leaf Acheron grass and put it in front of him. The blood-illuminating dragon's nostrils flared. Its scales spread, and the wings on its back flapped hard. Roar! It was a dumbfounded dragon roar. The blood-illuminating dragon stopped its tail. A strong gust of wind blew past, scattering the velvet rope on Bufong's head, causing his hair to flutter in the wind. It can do that? Bufong's eyes brightened. He did not expect that the blood-illuminating dragon would stop its tail attack. Was it because of the 9-leaf acheron grass? Great sage Acheron must have instilled the thought of protecting the acheron grass in the blood-illuminating dragon, which was why it did not dare to hurt the 9-leaf acheron grass. That was interesting. The corner of Bufong's mouth twitched. There was a tearing noise. The tail swept over again from another angle, as if it was going to whip Bufong to death. However, Bufong grabbed the 9-leaf acheron grass and turned around. The blood-illuminating dragon stopped its tail once again. The blood-illuminating dragon was furious. The dragon kept slamming its claws on the ground. It raised its head and let out an angry roar. I can't play with this dragon anymore. Bufong's heart flickered. While the blood-illuminating dragon couldn't do anything to him, Bufong's mind flickered. His body shot out of the valley. However, the blood-illuminating dragon flapped its huge wings, blocking in front of him. This dragon, isn't it stupid? Seeing that the blood-illuminating dragon wanted to stop him, Bufong furrowed his brows. He felt more pressure. If he didn't leave this valley soon, when great sage acheron grass returned, he would not have a chance to run. The blood-illuminating dragon's lantern-like eyes gazed at Bufong. Bufong seemed to feel the provocation in the blood-illuminating dragon's eyes. Roar! The blood-illuminating dragon growled. Bufong glanced at the blood-illuminating dragon, the corner of his mouth twitching. His mind flickered. Little gold, roar back for me. Bufong's figure entered his spirit sea. He said to the golden divine dragon. The golden divine dragon twisted its body. Bufong's hair turned golden at a speed visible to the naked eye. Oh, a pure-blooded little female illuminating dragon. Blonde-haired Bufong raised his head, looking at the giant blood-illuminating dragon. His eyes brightened, and he stuck out his tongue, licking his lips. The blood-illuminating dragon was bewildered. It seemed to feel that this despicable human's aura had changed dramatically. Roar! The blood-illuminating dragon was enraged. It could feel that blonde Bufong was flirting with it. It was a female dragon. How could the blood-illuminating dragon allow a human to flirt with it? This crazy human wouldn't even spare a dragon. Blonde-haired Bufong's eyes narrowed, and his nostrils flared. Then he opened his mouth, and a dragon roar that was many times louder than the blood-illuminating dragon's rang out. Behind him, there seemed to be a majestic golden dragon shadow hovering. The divine dragon's shadow shook the sky. The blood-illuminating dragon froze. Blonde-haired Bufong was very proud. Girl, hurry up and surrender to the majestic bearing of the great Nicholas, the handsome dragon. Blonde-haired Bufong opened his mouth and laughed. In his spirit sea, Bufong was speechless. He asked Goldie to roar back, not flirt with it. All of a sudden, his face changed. Blonde-haired Bufong, who was laughing, was also bewildered. A terrible pressure suddenly descended. This pressure was so powerful that it made blonde Bufong's face freeze. A moment later, his body bent like a bow. Then he twitched. Like a spring, he shot into the distance. He wanted to run away. You stole my 9-leaf acheron grass, and you still want to run? A deafening voice resounded through the entire world. Bam! Blonde-haired Bufong's figure bumped into an invisible barrier, and his whole body was bounced back. F*CK. This handsome dragon is in so much pain. Little host is courting death. I can't believe he provoked the top great sage. The corner of the gold divine dragon's mouth twitched. The great sage Acheron tore through the void. He suddenly stepped out of the void, holding the grass in his hand. His eyes were cold and ruthless, full of terrible, murderous intent. At first glance, he saw blonde Bufong. It's you. Of course, the great sage Acheron recognized Bufong. It was this kid who stole his one-leaf Acheron grass. He was heartbroken for several days. Now this kid came again. Kid, isn't it enough that you got the senseless lotus? You didn't even let my 9-leaf Acheron grass go. The great sage Acheron was furious. Bufong regained control of his body. His hair turned black. With an expressionless face, he looked at the great sage Acheron in the void and took a deep breath. The surrounding void completely froze. He wanted to enter the heaven and earth farmland, but he couldn't. The great sage Acheron's strength seemed to be unexpectedly strong. The gold divine dragon said that the great sage Acheron's cultivation base was the top great sage. It was indeed a little terrifying. However, when he was on the Acheron River, the great sage Acheron was slapped away by the Bronze Palace's expert. How strong was the expert in the Bronze Palace? Bufong couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Outside the valley, Liu Cheng floated in the void, his deep eyes looking into the valley. The great sage Acheron had left. Zhang Xian was dead. The other nether prison experts all collapsed to the ground, gasping for breath as if they were exhausted. Leader, Liu Cheng took a deep breath, the corners of his mouth twitching slightly. Let's get out of here. That chef from the Heaven Chief realm is dead for sure. He has angered the great sage Acheron. He's dead for sure. Liu Cheng was a little excited. Thinking of Bufong's straight eyes, he felt goosebumps all over his body. It was good that the psychopath was dead. He would feel better. The group of people flew away at high speed. Liu Cheng led the group and sped away. Suddenly, Liu Cheng's expression suddenly changed. In the distant sky, a figure flew over like a meteor, then smashed into the ground with a thud. Boom! The ground exploded and completely shattered. Crack! Crack! The nether prison experts all sucked in a cold breath, looking at the figure in the deep pit in disbelief. Liu Cheng's heart suddenly tightened, and his divine will surged out. Suddenly, a huge sacred nether puppet wrapped in a black robe appeared behind him. Smoke and dust billowed away. Finally, the figure in the pit was revealed. It was a skeleton clad in golden armor. Deep blue willow, the wisp flickered in his empty eye sockets. The flickering flames seemed to be able to attract one's attention. The skeleton's golden armor was so dazzling that people couldn't take their eyes off it. There were 2 spears on the puppet's back, and the tips of the spears were filled with an eerie coldness. A skeleton from the cave of the fallen gods. Liu Cheng's pupils constricted. He could feel a suffocating, murderous aura emanating from the skeleton. This skeleton was very strong. You guys go first. Go quickly. I'll hold him back. You guys go back to Acheron Town. Liu Cheng hovered in midair, his face extremely serious. This trip to Earth Prison seemed to be unexpectedly dangerous. No wonder Nether Prison hadn't attacked Earth Prison for so many years. There were too many forbidden existences in Earth Prison. Back then, they had killed the old Hades, but there were still so many powerful existences. The faces of the Nether Prison contestants were already pale. The great sage of Acheron was no match for them, but they didn't seem to be a match for the skeleton in front of them either. Crack! Crack! Liu Cheng raised his hand. His divine will turned into fine threads, which wrapped around the sacred nether puppet on his back. The puppet immediately floated in front of him. At this moment, the Nether Prison contestants turned around and sped away without hesitation. The ghostly fire in the skeleton's eye sockets flickered, but it didn't care about the group of people who were fleeing. Those who stand in my way will be killed without mercy. The skeleton opened and closed its mouth, uttering strange syllables. Humph. Skeletons from the cave of the fallen gods. I also want to feel how strong you are. Liu Cheng's body suddenly grew taller and floated in the void. He sat down cross-legged. Then he spread his arms. His hands were as delicate as a woman's, and they even glowed with the color of jade. One by one, the thin strands fell down from the sky. Rip! With a loud noise, the black robe was torn to shreds, and a bright silver light bloomed. For the first time, the appearance of the sacred nether puppet was revealed. The sacred nether puppet's body was made of metal and had distinct lines. On the chest of the sacred nether puppet was a gem that emitted an azure light. It seemed to be the legendary sacred nether puppet's heart, the source of its energy. Facing the huge sacred nether puppet, the ghostly fire in the skeleton's eye sockets flickered. Then it grabbed a spear on its back. The next moment, its slender skeletal legs bent and then suddenly straightened. Like a spring, it shot up into the sky. The spear thrust at the sacred nether puppet. Boom, boom, boom. A battle broke out in midair. As soon as the battle began, Liu Chang felt a terrible, murderous aura coming at him. Bufang looked at the great sage of Acheron, and the great sage of Acheron looked back at Bufang. In the eyes of the great sage of Acheron, Bufang was already a dead man. Anyone who dared to take his grass must die. His 9-leaf Acheron grass was his treasure, and taking it away was tantamount to taking his life. Bufang's face was very calm. He looked at the great sage of Acheron and let out a long sigh. He had been discovered. There was nothing he could do. It was my fault for taking your 1-leaf Acheron grass. After all, you were the one who planted it, Bufang said. Beg for mercy? It's useless. You must die for taking my grass. The great sage of Acheron said coldly. Bufang glanced at the great sage of Acheron and shook his head. But this 9-leaf Acheron grass is a creation of heaven and earth. It belongs to fate. Since I can hold this grass, it means that I'm fated with it. Bufang's expression was very serious. The corner of the great sage of Acheron's mouth twitched violently. You're bluffing. The great sage won't fall for it. As long as the grass lives, I'll live. I'll turn the world upside down. The great sage of Acheron said fiercely. He had stayed at the source of the Acheron River for tens of thousands of years, planting grass for tens of thousands of years, but he still couldn't grow the 9-leaf Acheron grass. This 9-leaf Acheron grass was his treasure. Bluff? Do you think I'm bluffing? Everything in this world is about fate. What's yours will eventually be yours, and what's not yours won't eventually be yours. Since I can hold this grass, it means that it's not yours. Bufang looked at the great sage of Acheron expressionlessly and continued to bluff. No, explain with a straight face. Enough. I don't want to listen to your bluffing. Even if you're under the protection of that mangy dog, you must die now. The great sage of Acheron let out a long roar, his hair fluttering in the wind. In the next moment, a palm slapped down on Bufang. The surrounding heaven and earth suddenly became stagnant, and the atmosphere seemed to freeze. A huge palm that blotted out the sky shattered the void and slapped toward Bufang. A terrifying, murderous intent suddenly surged. Bufang held the 9-leaf Acheron grass, his expression calm. He watched as the palm closed in on him. Finally, he let out a long sigh. It seemed like he had to use his trump card. Stop. Don't you want to know what I'm going to do with this 9-leaf Acheron grass? Today, you give me a blade of grass, and I'll give you a grassland in the future. Bufang looked straight at the great sage of Acheron. He said seriously, Rumble. The palm suddenly fell, stopping an inch in front of Bufang. Chapter 1285. Return my grassland. Great sage Acheron's eyes narrowed when he heard Bufang's indifferent words. He had to admit that this kid's mental fortitude was really good. Even a 9-revolution little saint would be turned into a meat patty by his palm strike, let alone a 1st revolution little saint. However, this kid was completely fearless and didn't even bat an eyelid. I have a lot of 1-leaf Acheron grass. What do I need a 1-leaf Acheron grass for? Great sage Acheron laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. His laughter lingered in the sky and resounded continuously. The grassland I'll return to you naturally won't be a 1-leaf Acheron grass. It'll be a 9-leaf Acheron grass. Bufang said calmly. Young man, are you still trying to bluff when you're about to die? Do you know how hard it is to get a 9-leaf Acheron grass? Great sage Acheron's eyes were extremely sharp. Acheron grass growing from 8 to 9 leaves is a qualitative transformation. It's not something that humans can achieve. It can only be formed after countless years of nurturing by the world. The 9-leaf acheron grass in your hand is the first 9-leaf acheron grass that I've seen in 10,000 years. Great sage acheron grass said. A palm floated in the void. The terrifying pressure caused the void around the palm to shatter. This palm didn't fall. It floated an inch away from Bufang. However, it didn't dissipate. This kind of control over power was definitely extraordinary. Believe me, a grassland is not a dream. Bufang said seriously. Great sage Acheron curled his lips and smiled disdainfully. Tell me again, what are you doing with the Acheron grass? Although the 9-leaf Acheron grass is rare, its rarity lies in its rarity. Only I, the great sage Acheron, am interested in the 9-leaf Acheron grass, but I only play with it occasionally. It's my personal hobby. Great sage Acheron said. What really made him stop was not what Bufang said about returning him the grassland. It was because of what Bufang had said about the use of the 9-leaf Acheron grass. This was the main reason why he stopped. Bufang raised his hand. In his hand was the 9-leaf Acheron grass. Acheron grass was dark green in color with 9 leaves growing from the bottom to the top. The higher it was, the greener the leaves were. Thick spirit essence dispersed from the Acheron grass. Just by smelling it, it made people feel refreshed. This is the 9-leaf Acheron grass, Bufang said. Then Bufang raised his other hand. In his palm, a light emerged. Instantly, a 9-petal flower of helplessness emerged. The 9-petal flower of helplessness was pure white, like a magnolia. The fragrance continued to permeate the air. 9-petal flower of helplessness. Great sage Acheron's eyes were a little surprised. He didn't expect that Bufang could even control the 9-petal flower of helplessness. However, compared to the 9-leaf Acheron grass, the 9-petal flower of helplessness was more than 1 grade lower. Why did this kid take out the 9-petal flower of helplessness? You might be holding the Acheron grass just to play with it, but this is a real waste of a heavenly treasure. Bufang looked at Great Sage Acheron and said mercilessly. Great Sage Acheron was instantly depressed. How he wished he could slap this brat to death with a single slap. However, he resisted. He wanted to know what this Acheron grass could do besides play with it. Medicine? Forget it. In this world, there were many spirit herbs with stronger medicinal properties than the Acheron grass. Why would he use such a rare 9-petal Acheron grass to make medicine? So, if Bufang couldn't give him a satisfactory answer, he would definitely slap him mercilessly. Even if this kid had obtained the senseless lotus, even if this kid seemed to have a close relationship with the expert in the Bronze Palace, but he, Great Sage Acheron, was not afraid of anything. Bufang took a deep breath. 9-petal Acheron grass and 9-petal flower of helplessness can make a peerless wine, Bufang said. What? Great Sage Acheron was stunned. Then his expression suddenly became strange. He looked at Bufang as if he was looking at an idiot. Wine? This kid risked his life to get the 9-petal Acheron grass just to make wine? Are you crazy? Or do you think I'm a fool? Great Sage Acheron's eyes narrowed, and the surrounding world was once again imprisoned. Bufang looked at Great Sage Acheron indifferently and asked, You don't believe me? I don't believe you. Great Sage Acheron sneered. Great Sage Acheron had, of course, drunk wine, but there was no wine that could move him. The corner of Bufang's mouth twitched. His mind flickered. A jade jar suddenly appeared in his hand. This was Bufang's last jar of Acheron wine of helplessness. His mind flickered. Acheron wine of helplessness flew toward Great Sage Acheron. Great Sage Acheron was stunned. Then, he raised his hand and grabbed the white jade jar. What is this? Great Sage Acheron asked, puzzled. It's a leaf of Acheron grass that was harvested to make Acheron wine of helplessness. Bufang answered honestly. Wine? Was it really wine? Great Sage Acheron narrowed his eyes, then directly opened the lid. A strong wine aroma immediately came out of the jar, entering great sage Acheron's mouth and nose. What kind of wine aroma was that? It was so alluring. Just by smelling it, he couldn't help but crave for wine. It seems not bad. Great sage Acheron's eyes focused, looking at Bufong suspiciously. Then he grabbed the white jade jar and poured it into his mouth. The clear wine immediately gushed out of the white jade jar, pouring into great sage Acheron's mouth. Gulp, gulp. Great sage Acheron raised his head to drink. The fragrant wine unceasingly seeped out of the corner of his mouth. He gulped it down. The jar of wine was finished in an instant. Awesome! Great sage Acheron's eyes lit up. He drank the Acheron wine of helplessness in one gulp, then wiped the wine stain from the corner of his mouth. His face was a little red, although the spirit energy in the wine was just a drop in the ocean for the great sage. The taste was really amazing. It was the most delicious wine he had ever tasted. This wine was really brewed with Acheron grass. Carefully smacking his lips, he seemed to be able to taste the Acheron grass in the wine. Great sage Acheron was very familiar with Acheron grass. Naturally, he could taste its taste immediately. His eyes became brighter. Turns out Acheron grass can also be used to make wine. Great sage Acheron muttered. This is just a wine brewed with 1 leaf of Acheron grass and 1 petal of the flower of helplessness. If it is brewed with 9 leaves of Acheron grass, the whole jar of wine will be sublimated. Bufong said seriously. Peerless wine isn't just for show. It's definitely 10,000 times better than the one you just drank. This is why I risked my life to get the 9 leaves of Acheron grass. 10,000 times? Great sage Acheron's face changed. Was it really that exaggerated? 10,000 times better than the wine I just drank? That kind of wine was really unimaginable. Did such a wine really exist in this world? It should be noted that when the abyss was at its peak, he had tasted all 3 kinds of wine brewed there. Compared to the one Bufong had just given him, it was only slightly worse. This kid actually said it was 10,000 times better. Great sage Acheron still felt his heartache. How rare was the 9 leaves of Acheron grass? If it was used to make wine, when the wine was finished, the grass would be gone. He still felt his heartache. Believe me, good wine is hard to come by. Even if the grass is gone, it can still be planted. But if the wine is gone, it's gone. Bufong said. Great sage Acheron was a little tempted. Suddenly, great sage Acheron's eyes widened. I was almost fooled by you. Since a 1-leaf Acheron grass can be brewed, an 8-leaf Acheron grass can be brewed as well. Why must you use a 9-leaf Acheron grass? Great sage Acheron said. 8-leaf. Bufong's lips twitched as he shook his head. Peerless wine can only be brewed with top-grade ingredients. His words, great sage Acheron was at a loss for words. For a time, he did not know how to answer Bufong. This was because Bufong's words were filled with confidence and domineering. However, he had a point. If it was not made with top-grade ingredients, how could it be considered peerless? Great sage Acheron was tempted. Bufong immediately put in more effort and began to swindle them. After a long time, the palm in the air disappeared. Great sage Acheron stared at Bufong. In that case, brew it now. Brew it in Acheron Valley. I, great sage, want to taste the peerless wine as soon as possible. If you dare to deceive me, you know the consequences. Great sage Acheron said coldly. Brew it in Acheron Valley? Bufong furrowed his brows. What? Great sage Acheron saw Bufong's frown. His killing intent surged again. Sure, but I have a small competition to participate in. It's very important because I have to save an old friend. Bufong said with a frown. Then he raised his hand. The 9-leaf Acheron grass flew into great sage Acheron's hand. When my competition is over, I'll come over and brew it, Bufong said. A competition held by those old fellows in Nether Prison? TSK, TSK, TSK. The purpose of the competition is not simple. Great sage Acheron gave Bufong a deep look. Then he put away the Acheron grass. All right, come over as soon as your competition is over. I'll wait for you to brew the wine. When you're done, I'll personally send you to Nether Prison. Great Sage Acheron said. All right, Bufong said. Suddenly, Great Sage Acheron dispersed his aura. All the restraining force in the whole valley disappeared in an instant. Bufong glanced at Great Sage Acheron, clasped his hands behind his back, stepped on the void, and shot out of the valley. Great Sage Acheron looked deeply at Bufong's back as he left. If it was someone else who tried to bluff him so much, they would have been slapped to death by him long ago. After all, Bufong's relationship with that mangy dog was not ordinary. Besides, the fact that he could pick the senseless lotus showed that this boy was extraordinary. So, he believed him for the time being. He licked his lips. Of course, what moved him the most was the wine. It was 10,000 times better. Just thinking about it made him excited. Boom! The huge sacred nether puppet was smashed to the ground. A golden spear pierced the sacred nether puppet's heart, causing the azure puppet's heart to suddenly dim and shatter. In the void, Liu Cheng's face suddenly became very unsightly. He never thought that this skeleton in golden armor would be so strong. Was it the 8-revolution little saint, or the 9-revolution little saint? He was an expert of the nether puppeteer lineage. With the sacred nether puppet and his strength, he would have no problem dealing with the 8-revolution little saint. But his sacred nether puppet had been smashed by the skeleton in golden armor. Without the sacred nether puppet's heart, his sacred nether puppet lost its ability to continue fighting. Run! Liu Cheng gritted his teeth. This was the only thought left in his mind. Without hesitation, Liu Cheng turned around, intending to flee. His divine sense flickered. Immediately, one low-level, sacred nether puppet after another flew toward the golden-armored skeleton, entangling it. The ghostly fire in the skeleton's eye sockets suddenly burned brightly. In the next moment, boundless flames suddenly enveloped everything. The surface of the golden spear was covered with densely packed vein patterns. As the spear swept out, the sacred nether puppets exploded one by one. They turned into countless metal fragments, scattering all over the ground. Looking at Liu Cheng's flying figure, the ghostly fire in the skeleton's eyes surged like a vortex. The next moment, it raised the spear and threw it at Liu Cheng's back. Suddenly, the moment the spear was thrown, the golden skeleton seemed to have sensed something. The ghostly fire flickered and turned in another direction. In the void there, a young man in a striped red and white vermilion robe stepped through the air. Swoosh! The spear, which had been aimed at Liu Cheng's heart, suddenly tilted. Swoosh! It tore the sky and chased after Liu Cheng's back. Swoosh! It was accompanied by an earth-shattering howl. Ah! Damn skeleton from the cave of the fallen gods. How dare you stab me in the ass? I'm not done with you. When the great sage of the Nether Puppeteer clan comes, I'll crush you, you stinking skeleton, one by one. Liu Cheng's voice, which was filled with shame and anger, resounded through the void. The spear flew back and was caught by the skeleton in golden armor. On the tip of the spear, drops of blood blossomed like flowers. However, the skeleton didn't care. As the flames swept over, the blood on the spear immediately dissipated. The skeleton's eyes turned and fell on Bufong. The holder of the senseless lotus, the skeleton's mouth opened and closed, and a strange syllable rang out. In the distant void, darkness slowly spread out. A figure, which seemed to be lurking in the darkness, locked onto Bufong with a cold aura. I finally found the holder of the senseless lotus. The expert from the Black Temple had also arrived. Swoosh! Holy light fell from the sky. The expert from the Winged Man Valley, wearing a turquoise grass ring he had woven himself, landed on a branch in the distance and looked into the distance with interest. Over there, a skeleton and a black shadow had surrounded the target of his mission. Well, it's better to come at the right time than to come early. It seems that this mission is very easy. I can go back and report without having to do anything myself. I'm so happy, the winged man muttered with a smile as he folded the 2 pairs of wings on his back. Bufong clasped his hands behind his back and hovered in midair. His brows were slightly furrowed. He looked doubtfully at the skeleton in golden armor in the distance and the black shadow behind him. A terrifying aura emanated from them. This aura was very strong. They were definitely the top existences among the little saints. Who were they? Why were they looking for trouble with him? Bufang also felt killing intent from them. Killing intent? Bufang's eyes suddenly became sharp. When did I provoke these existences? Two top little saints, are they determined to kill me? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.